Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning.
Moses Koch or whatever they are. Oh my God. By February, I should have child.
I will get started.
No, it is my husband.
Test, test. Yeah. All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Thomas Kim, TriMet's Board Vice President. Welcome to TriMet Board of Directors meeting for December 10th, 2025. We're gathered again at one main place in our TriMet boardroom for our December 2025 board meeting. We're also live streaming the meeting on YouTube. We have 5 board members present in person for today's meeting. President Lewis is absent. Thank you for being with us today. Before we proceed, I would like to invite up TriMet's Chief Safety and Security Officer, Andrew Wilson, for a safety moment, please. Oh, safety.
Well,
yeah.
thanks all. Oh, hey, that's all right. That's all right. I appreciate you guys all being here too. Just wanted to kind of let the board know and the occupants of the room know that we do have safety moments here. TriMet is of the utmost importance. It's our first priority here at TriMet. And every one of our meetings, we start with a safety moment. And so because this is a meeting at TriMet, we're going to go ahead and start with a safety moment here today, which hopefully board members as well as others out here will be able to glean something from and keep each other safer this holiday season. So we're going to talk about pedestrian safety today. Little shocking facts. In 2023, 7,300, so 7,314 pedestrians were killed on our streets and highways. Over the past decade, that has continued to rise. And so we need to think about that, particularly as we're in Oregon's kind of rainy season. It's very dark out there. There's a lot of pedestrian activity. We as drivers and as pedestrians need to make sure that we're keeping ourselves safe. So here's some tips before we get started today. One, follow rules and obey signage. It's easy to skip a crosswalk or go around it, or don't do that. Stay on it. It's there for safety. Number two, walk on sidewalks, and if there's no sidewalk available, walk against traffic so that they can see you. Do not cross mid-block. If there's no crossing, look for well-lit areas so that you can be seen. Watch for cars exiting driveways. That's very easy to do, is to miss that somebody's trying to leave a driveway. Particularly with electric vehicles now, you don't hear them. So think about that. Do not rely on others to keep you safe. Make eye contact. Right out here, as you cross the street, there's an obstruction. If you're not making eye contact with the driver, you could be putting yourselves in harm's way, so be careful with that. Don't wear hoods where you can't see when you're crossing. We've all seen that, so be careful. Wear bright clothing. That's really important this time of year, so think about that. Also, don't walk and use your cell phone. How many times have we seen that lately? So avoid distraction, particularly when it's dark. And then lastly, beware of obstructions, things where you can't be seen when you're walking out there. Don't just step out into the street if others can't see you. You can't see them, they can't see you. So that's your safety moment. I hope it makes us all a little bit safer this season. That's all.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Now, we begin the public forum with those who are present and have signed up to testify. Members of the public who wish to provide testimony but could not be here in person may join us virtually after we have heard from those who are present and have signed up to testify. For all those offering testimony, please direct your comments to TriMet and our transit-related services rather than other topics. We also ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes. You will note that there will be a time indicator to help you comply with this request, and we ask that you respect the time. If you're unable to limit your comments to 3 minutes, you may provide additional comments in writing. TriMet staff can provide an email address for you to send written comments to the board. Also, please know that we appreciate your testimony. If you ask a question, request information, or raise an issue, it is noted in the record. If appropriate, the general manager will ask TriMet staff to get back to you after the meeting. Now, I'll call up to the testimony table for 2 people at a time. Our first 2 folks testifying this morning are Dorothy Von Eggers and Ben Hecko. Please. Okay, and you just have to press the button on the right to, if it's green, then you're on. Dorothy, please.
Thank you. Hello, Board. Hello, Vice President Kim. I was here last in May, and I said I would come back in the fall to give an update on the number review for the Bus 96. Just real quick, a brief history. For the past 4 years, I've been on a crusade to keep Bus 96 traveling on the I-5 freeway and off the arterial roads between Tualatin Park and Ride and downtown Portland. The feedback TriMet received from 96 riders thus far has prompted the board to postpone the initial 2022 Forward Together initiative. This initiative aimed to improve the bus service network by expanding access to jobs and destinations for low and limited income individuals. The concept included a reevaluation of bus routes and service frequency with the goal of increasing ridership and providing frequent service to high traffic and underserved communities. The rerouting of Bus 96 off the I-5 freeway was delayed until June 2025. However, due to the return to work executive order and the increase in ridership, the decision was made to pause the change for 1 year until summer of 2026. Additional tracking of numbers would ensue throughout the year to establish a basis on which direction to go. This whole time, I have acknowledged the lack of ridership on 96 during non-peak hours and have been advocating ever since to keep the current 96 route for a minimum 2-hour window in the morning and afternoon rush hour. I've been tracking ridership the last 3 months, and the morning buses between 6:40 a.m. and 8:10 a.m. are averaging anywhere from 22 to 24 people on each bus. In fact, on November 12th, the 737 bus, AM bus, had 28 people riding it. That's pretty good. Fast forward to November 2025, where TriMet announced a $300 million shortfall and the need for service cuts once again system-wide. My question to the board is to find out if 96 is still on its own trajectory to be reviewed for summer of 2026, or has it now been incorporated into the larger future potential service cuts initiative slated for late 2026 and again late 2027? And hoping that you would be able to get back to me and let me know, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Vice President Kim and members of the board. My name is Ben Hecko. I am a terrible guitar player and an avid reader, but the most relevant thing about me today is that for the past 3 years, I've been a member of TriMet's safety response team. During my tenure with the SRT, I've encountered some of the most compassionate and kind people that I've ever met. I love that every day our team goes onto the system and actively works to better the lives of riders across the system. I will say, however, regularly working with individuals experiencing houselessness, addiction, and mental health crises requires a degree of workplace support that is not currently present. As a result, many SRT experience burnout and compassion fatigue with little ability to recover after acute incidents. And to that end, to help create a more sustainable workplace with better benefits, paid time off, and higher retention, the safety response team is organizing a union with SEIU. In early November, we presented Portland Patrol Management with a letter asking them and informing them that we were forming a union and asking them to agree to a fair process for us to form a union. What does that mean? We simply want the fair, neutral process that an employee of TriMet could experience when forming their union. It's the same process that other contracted security officers who are already members of SEIU Local 49 have used to win their union. We have not been met with the response we've hoped, unfortunately. We believe that Portland Patrol may have already violated our rights by committing unfair labor practices, Our management held a pizza party that seemed like it may have been designed to seek to convince us not to form a union, and now longer-term employees like myself have been offered raises. All we want is a voice on the job and for the company to agree to the same fair and neutral process that other security employers across Portland have agreed to. So far, the company has yet to meet with us. With the exception of the customer safety officers, all other field units that operate on the TriMet system are unionized. Being members of a union provides stability and protects the people that keep public transit moving. To that end, TriMet should encourage its contractors to avoid disputes with their workers, and in this case, to recognize the fair process we've been asking for. We would simply want the same protections that other members of TriMet enjoy. Thank you for listening, and take care.
Thank you both. Thank you. And next, I'd like to invite up Ali Segler and Devin Beaver, please. Good morning.
Good morning, baby. Switch your lights, switch your mics. Sorry. I don't know how to do this. Good morning, all. Okay,
Morning.
hi. So you guys have seen me here before. This is my second time. Hello, board, President Lewis, and members of the board of directors, and baby, like I said, welcome. Congratulations on the new baby, Christmas baby. Okay, my name is Ali Segler. I am a 53-year-old woman who takes great pride in having 5 years clean and sober from nearly 42 years of consuming drugs and alcohol. I am blessed with the support of a beautiful family and a community of loved ones, many of whom are healing from the trauma of substance abuse disorder, and many of whom are still fighting every day for survival. These are my people. As an experienced member of the safety response team, I would like to express that it is my honor and my privilege to engage with my community and be able to spread the love and the compassion that was so kindly also given to me. In short, I love my job, okay? I love what I do, and I'm so very grateful and proud. We do good work. Safety response team is made up of some of the most talented and unique groups of people I have ever known. We do good work every single day. In this city, when most people are in their homes safe, we are out connecting with some of our community's most vulnerable populations. When it's pouring down rain in the middle of the night, there is a safety response team being dispatched to 122nd Max station for a possible overdose. When it is 100 degrees out in the middle of August, there is a safety response team assisting an elderly individual in a wheelchair to get to a cooling shelter. When someone's son or daughter or brother decides that they have had enough and detox is the answer, there is a safety response team to write a referral and create a solid plan. The list goes on and on. We do good work. We, SRT, every single one of us, deserves sustainable health care, livable wages, accrued paid time off, and sick time. We deserve coworkers who are competitively selected for their talents and capabilities. We deserve to not live in fear of a retaliatory and unsafe work environment and constant hiring and firing. TriMet and our community benefit from our strengths and our mental and physical health. But TriMet and our community suffer from our constantly high turnover. We constantly have to expedite employment to fill a quota only to have people get fired and quit because the risk and danger of the job outweigh the benefits. Despite these challenges, there are SRTs such as myself who do this because it's not just a job. It's an opportunity and a platform to make a difference in our struggling city. We do good work. I'm here today to ask for your support to ensure our employer respects our rights to form a union. So far, Portland Patrol has not respected our request for a fair process to form a union. They need to know that TriMet, as a public agency, recognizes our right to form a union. Public agencies should not support contractors that don't respect their workers' choice to form a union.
Thank you.
Boom. Drop the mic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Oh, it's on. Amazing. Hello. Hello, Vice President Kim and members of the Board of Directors. My name is Devin Beaver. I'm a young person. I'm just getting started with my life. So far, from what I've been able to find of my purpose, is built on my background and my lived experience with mental health challenges, abuse, and addiction. I try really hard to be a kind and empathetic person, and I really try to help others whenever I can. I love working for the safety response team. It is by far the best job I've ever had. For the first time in my life, I have a predictable schedule, 40-hour week, and overtime available like every single week. The people are another joy. My coworkers are some of the most interesting, inspirational, and strongest people I've ever met. I'm honored every day to work with them. And I found a beautiful culture of mentorship here that has helped me develop both as a leader and a team member. Our work is important. Helping a person in need get into shelter for the night, get a hot meal, break free from abuse, or even live until tomorrow because we provided emergency medical assistance. It's good work. I never go home and wonder if it matters. However, there are a lot of areas where we could be better. Our members deserve good health care, paid time off, and more opportunities for growth and professional development. We are told that our program values those with lived experience who can relate to the community. But when members continue to have lived experience as they work here, it no longer seems like a perk. It feels contradictory to be hired partially because you have depression and then to be disciplined for experiencing depression symptoms. I want TriMet to help support our union, and I believe it's in all of our best interests. Unionization has the power to reduce turnover, improve management, and help keep our members happy and healthy at work. Many of TriMet's work groups are unionized, and we're asking the company to respect the same type of process the same type of process that TriMet employees could use to form a union. I hope that TriMet will make it clear that it expects its contractors to be able to work with their workers, that they should agree to a fair process for us to decide about union representation. We work on TriMet, our uniforms say TriMet, passengers know us as TriMet, and we should have the same rights as TriMet employees, even if our pay stub says Portland Patrol. Thank you for listening. And please keep the safety response team in mind as y'all move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite up Troy Alonso and Jock Mills. Yeah, of course. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, Vice President Kim and members of the Board of Directors. My name is Tony, and I have been a member of the Safety Response Team for almost 3 years. Before joining the SRT, I worked on an ambulance as an EMT, and I'm currently enrolled in college night classes with the goal of becoming a nurse. Go Panthers. Before I became an SRT, I experienced housing instability, houselessness, and addiction. I was able to stabilize my life, and it has truly been an honor to work with the SRT to help others reach that same stability. I cannot count the number of people I have seen go through detox, find housing, or escape domestic violence because of my team's actions. I'm exceptionally proud to call myself an SRT. However, I cannot say that I am proud of the effect this work has had on my teammates. I have seen them unfairly treated, unable to pay medical bills due to our inadequate insurance, and burned out by the intense emotional energy our job demands. More than once, on my own time, I have talked fellow SRT members through suicidal ideation exacerbated by the work that we do. I know we cannot change everything in an environment that is inherently stressful and demanding, but steps such as accrued sick time, mental health days, insurance that covers therapy, and greater support for workers and their lived experience could make our program more sustainable, especially for those with traumatic backgrounds, people who the program is proud to give a second chance to. By our last count, 85% of SRTs have signed a card showing their support for joining a union. We have sent our declaration to PPI and so far received no meaningful response. Instead, Since then, our company owner held meetings with us that appeared to me to be intended to stop us from organizing. As of last week, they've now offered new raises, but not agreed to our request for a fair process to form our union. If the safety response team is to grow, retain good and impactful employees, provide the help I know we are capable of, and become a model for other programs across the country, we must be able to support one another and have a seat at the table. At the end of the day, it is the teammates and our experiences that make this team special. I ask you, as board members for a union-strong company and as people, to please ensure that Portland Patrol respects our right to form a union. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good
I'm
morning.
Jock Mills. It's a pleasure to be back. I was before the board earlier this year. I'm here to talk about the number 17 bus. You've heard testimony regarding the number 96. We're in the same boat. This is kind of reminiscent of Boys in the Boat in a sense that you have two lines that aren't paddling as best they could, and I'm urging you to, and first thanking you for your decisions to delay decisions about taking that bus away from the core of 3 inner northeast Portland neighborhoods. And I'm urging you to continue on with maintaining the service along the 24th corridor. I rode in this morning on that bus. There were over 20 people on the bus prior to getting to Broadway. That's the area you're removing service from, or proposing to remove service from. And so the bus is alive and well, and I'm hoping you will keep it that way without taking the bus away from that corridor and moving it up to 33rd as you had proposed doing before. I urge you to pay attention to your neighborhood associations. You did before, and they're at it again in terms of urging you to not move the bus. Increasing ridership is your Northern Star, and you've had communications where that doesn't seem to be the case. And it should also be seen, low ridership, as an opportunity to improve service, not to eliminate it. And that's unfortunately the track I think TriMet is on, and I'm urging you not to do that. I know you have some difficult decisions ahead of you to make, and there are a number of suggestions that I have, but I'm not a transit expert, but keep those core hours going. This morning is a clear evidence that people rely on that bus to come down to Portland to work, and it's important to do that. Secondly, there were a lot of students on that bus. They go to St. Mary's Academy. Keep that bus serving them. You don't want those students sitting or having to stand out in or walk through rain and darkness on the way to and the way home from school. And third, take care of the people who are trying to help keep both the Northeast Broadway corridor and downtown Portland going. We go down there to shop, we go down there to eat, and we go down there to be entertained. And maintaining that service is still important. If you need to increase the span or decrease the frequency of the buses, we'd much prefer that than eliminating service altogether. I really appreciate the difficult decisions that you have to make on a broad scope of issues, and we need the same clarity in terms of what's the status of this bus. It's been unclear from the conversations we've had with you so far. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Next, I'd like to invite up Doug Allen and Terry Pariser. Parker.
Good morning, Vice President Kim and directors. My name is Doug Allen, and I'm the Portland Area Vice President of AORTA, Association of Oregon Rail and Transit Advocates. About 40 years ago, at the behest of downtown business interests, TriMet, Multnomah County, and the City of Portland booted the downtown Greyhound and Trailways bus depots north to the planned transportation center just south of Portland Union Station. TriMet's North Terminal bus layover site arrived, along with a northward extension of the Transit Mall, followed by a light rail station and more recently the FX2 bus terminus. As decades passed, the economics of intercity bus travel changed to the point where Greyhound, which had gone bankrupt, been bought by a series of foreign corporations, and shed much of its service, vacated its depot and began stopping on Northwest Station Way, where there was no shelter or other facilities. The low point was perhaps early this year when through bus service in the I-84 corridor between Portland and Boise disappeared. Meanwhile, Union Station has assumed a larger role with increased Amtrak service, ODOT's point buses, and other regional services such as the Tillamook-Portland Coastliner and the Central Oregon Breeze. I want to invite everyone to the inauguration of a new intercity bus service sponsored by ODOT and operated by Northwestern Stage Lines between Portland Union Station and the Boise, Idaho Airport, with stops in Oregon along I-84 and a deviation to serve the Pasco, Washington Intermodal Train Depot. On Monday, December 15th, arrive by 10:15 a.m. for the press event. Meet the first customers to board the new service, talk with transit advocates, and speak with Northwestern Stage Lines and ODOT. At 10:45, the first bus will depart for Boise. Hope to see TriMet there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug.
Terry Parker, a resident of Northeast Portland. Just say no to bat lanes. NREX released its global traffic scorecard on December 2nd, which identified and ranked the top 25 U.S. cities with the worst congestion. Although last, at number 25, Portland made the list again this year. Taking away full-service travel lanes on city streets for the special interests of alternative mode users only adds to this congestion. It increases motor vehicle fuel consumption, emissions, and the temperature along corridors. It adds to the diversion of more traffic into residential neighborhoods. Additionally, transportation costs play a significant role in the cost of goods and services, in that most goods, along with an array of services, are delivered by motor vehicle. Increasing fuel costs and travel times for deliveries adds to across-the-board inflation, including at the grocery store. Instead of establishing, with a count of between 20,000 and 30,000 vehicles a day traveling on 82nd Avenue, taking away full-service travel lanes and replacing them with bat lanes so buses can shave 3 to 4 minutes of travel time does not make economic sense. Instead of establishing bat lanes on 82nd Avenue that would add more constraints for other traffic, PBOT and TriMet need to make a concerted effort to make the entire street flow better for all users. The way of doing this is with the proposed bus priority signaling system. The concept is simple. When a bus triggers the signal for a green light, the green light applies to all traffic traveling in the same direction through the intersection. Requiring bus stops to be on trailing side of intersections as opposed to the leading side of intersections where buses can block drivers from making right-hand turns can also improve traffic flow. The bottom line here is that it's not currently the transit riders who pay for the streets, the maintenance of the streets, or accepting the financial accountability for funding of this project, or even the overall cost of providing public transit. The majority of those dollars come directly or indirectly from the motorists who drive cars and trucks. Therefore, it should not be the motorists that receive negative impact to the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Next, I'd like to invite up Bruce Barnes and Dan Hagan.
Good morning, Vice Chair Kim and Board of Directors here for TriMet. I'm a guest in your community. I live in Vancouver, Washington. Lived there my entire life, 60 years. But I've paid taxes in this state for 40 with no voice, lots of them. I support labor unions, and I want to tell the labor union that's here, your problem isn't the TriMet board here, it's the state legislation. It is also the city council and previous city council that has failed you. $724 million were spent on drug addiction last year in the Tri-County area. Only 28% of that money got to the people that really needed it. That's the failure. That's why you have to have a team of people and put them at risk. Speaking of risk, your bus drivers don't have any training in the electric buses for fires. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a battery fire with a Tesla car, they can't put it out. So how are you going to get people out with no PPE in your buses and no people trained to fight those fires on those buses? But I'm not here for that. I'm here for the tolls, and I'm here for the Interstate Bridge Project. TriMet is $850 million in the hole. I've been to the RTC board over in Vancouver, the Regional Transportation Committee. They can't afford to build anything. Very, very, very little. Our state is broke. They'd raised the taxes $59 billion in the state of Washington. Tina Kotek's plan for the transportation bill is also failing because they're doing a referendum to repeal it because she didn't give the voters a vote. And it's gonna fail when it goes to the voters. You're not gonna get that money. 8.9% income tax they're trying to put on millionaires in the state of Washington, this year's legislation in the state of Washington. It's going to have a mass exodus effect of anybody with money or businesses, because who in their right mind would stay in a state that's going to charge them that kind of money for a successful business where they're employing people? The city of Vancouver is $46 million in debt. Clark County is $25 million in debt. The C-Tran is in debt. And I hear nobody listening. I'm a person that when dollars don't make sense, you probably shouldn't be doing it, right? You need a new pair of shoes, but you don't need a $400 pair of Nikes. You know what I mean? You got to do what you can afford. Everybody's voted in Clark County. They don't want a light rail system. People do not feel safe on it. You never see anybody on the buses. The light rail is very minimal occupancy on there. And I've turned in 3 different things from other people that testified last night. I had them copy them and turn them in. So there's very interesting reading in there and very interesting statistics on there. Also, last time we were here, we turned in a video, and the YouTube video was called Listen to Mayor Ann and Eric Paulson, how they colluded with the county chair, if I may presume my testimony, sir.
Your allotted time has concluded. You may finish up with the
Okay,
next
yeah,
few
real
sentences,
quick.
please.
So anyways, I was hoping that you had all had a chance to listen to that video and see what is going on in Vancouver. And if you want to partner with somebody that's involved in criminal behavior, because it is criminal behavior. But I do have one suggestion for your bus and your light rail as I'm leaving. You should have a naked bus ride day. Because who would not want their 8 or 9-year-old kid riding with some naked body going in the bus? And you get a lot of ridership because it seems to be popular here in Portland. So anyways, I'll leave you with that, and happy holidays. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please.
I expect all of you to be there too. Thank you, board. I know like we don't get a lot of opportunity to, to communicate or talk. So I do appreciate this. Don't really have a ton of prepared statements, but just some stuff. I do want to thank you. One of the biggest issues when the quality of ridership comes up is the trains are much, much cleaner. That's something that is nice, like to see it, we're on par with, like, say, New York or something. That's appreciated. The electric buses are awesome. Please look into more of that. I don't know if it's economic, like fuel and whatever, but it's awesome. And then also back to the quality of the ridership is, on the Maxes, the policy is 3 seconds before they can shut the doors after active boarding. From all my discussions with whoever I've had, the operators don't counter anything. They just shut the doors. And I've seen them shut them on disabled people, old people, all kinds of people, and repeatedly slam, slam, slam. And it's kind of disturbing, when you have an old lady or someone with a walker getting smashed. Anyway, let's see. Another thing would be to re-engage the open door buttons, like when people would run up and be able to open the doors. And I know being on time is like mission critical for you guys, but if you want positive, when you come up and you can hit that and you make it, you feel so great. So if, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, yes, I won. And that's a great way to like get people to like not be bitter when they don't, and the Max just takes off. Another thing that's really kind of like doing the research is if you would look at, it's kind of like this is the Honor Citizen card system. The Los Angeles example is awesome, is where every month the cards are automatically loaded with 20 free rides. And here it's kind of the opposite, where you pay and then you get free rides. That's just, that would make it easier. It's a kind of have to pay if you're poor to get free is, doesn't really seem fair. Also, another thing is I would prepare for a catastrophic drop in revenue, businesses leaving downtown, the city core. And with that, being one of the most expensive transits in the world by monthly pass, please don't offset those revenue losses with fare increases. You are one of the most expensive by monthly bus passes. And that's it. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, and I wanted to give some support for the SRT, because that's also another quality thing.
Thank you. All right, next, I'd like to invite up Michael Liu and Michael Richner. Please pardon my pronunciation. Good morning.
So mic on?
Yep.
Thank you, Vice Chair Kim and TriMet board members. Thanks for the opportunity to allow me to speak today. My name is Michael Liu, and I'm here on behalf of Foodmont Shopping Center and 82nd Avenue. I want to start by thanking TriMet and PBOT for the time you've taken to respond to the questions I've raised about the core transit project and the discussion around adding BAT lanes on 82nd Avenue for the Line 72. Your engagement means a great deal to the business and community members who rely on this corridor every day. I also want to acknowledge the substantial benefits the core transit project is bringing: modernized stations, cleaner and higher capacity buses, improved stop spacing, safer crossings, and transit signal priority that will help buses move more reliably through one of the busiest north-south corridors in the city. These improvements are important, long overdue, and would genuinely help thousands of riders. At the same time, it's critical to look closely at the actual circumstance on the corridor right now. 82nd Avenue is already experiencing heavy construction, including infrastructure upgrades, signal improvements, and ongoing roadway work. Many businesses are dealing with reduced driveway access, limited visibility, declining spontaneous visits, and customers who avoid the area because of delays and disruptions. For small family-run, BIPOC-owned, and immigrant-owned businesses, many still recovering from the pandemic, this has created real strain. When these businesses express concern about adding BAT lanes on top of ongoing construction, they are not resisting progress. They are communicating daily pressures that are already pushing them to the edge. Introducing BAT lanes, whether partial or full, changes how people access the corridor. In a constrained environment like 82nd Avenue, even modest changes to traffic flows can have ripple effects: increased diversion into neighborhood streets, reduced convenience for quick customer stops, and potential harm to businesses that have anchored this community for decades. This is why I'm asking for a responsible, data-driven approach. Let the transformational improvements already underway, including stations, crossings, and transit signal priority, settle and take effect. Allow the current construction impacts to ease so we can get a clear, accurate picture of how travel patterns, safety, and business activities shift. Then, with real information, not assumptions, we can better understand what adding BAT lanes would mean for the long-term health of the corridor. We all want 82nd to thrive. We all want safe streets, reliable transit, and strong local businesses. True progress must support every user of the corridor: riders, workers, residents, and the many small businesses that give 82nd its identity and vitality. My request is simple: let the current improvements stabilize, evaluate their impacts fully, and then determine the right path forward for BAT lanes in a way that's ambitious, equitable, and sustainable for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Ridenauer. I'm a Beaverton resident, and I work at a Methodist church in downtown Beaverton. And I also oversee a food pantry that serves about 200 people in Washington County on a monthly basis. A lot of the people that I work with are reliant on public transit and have expressed concerns about some of the service cuts in Washington County, especially the late night service cuts on line 52 and the upcoming service cuts on 76. One of the things that comes along with being reliant on public transit is a certain slower pace of life. It takes a lot longer to do things, and if you get off work at 5 p.m., oftentimes, if you have chores or things to do in the evening, it's very likely that you won't get home from doing those things until well after 9 p.m. And it really sucks to be stranded waiting on a return bus because the bus has been cut to coming only once an hour after 9 p.m. A lot of people have also expressed concern to me that these cuts are permanent. And from my understanding, you guys face a budget shortfall, and I understand that you're making tough decisions to cover that. But it might be helpful to reassure the public that these are not permanent changes and that these are just shortfall measures that are temporary. And then one more thing that I just quickly wanted to add. I did see that y'all are looking to improve Tualatin Valley Highway, which I'm very glad to see because it does have some of the highest pedestrian fatalities in Washington County. And also line 57 has the highest ridership in Washington County. And I'm really glad that y'all are doing something about that. But I think it's also important to keep in mind that just simply having a better bus system doesn't necessarily make the bus run quicker, and it doesn't necessarily by itself improve pedestrian safety. If you want to do those things, you need things like BAT lanes, and you need to improve the actual layout of the highway, and I hope that's something that you take into consideration as you move through the design phase over the next few years. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite up our virtual public testimony from Aaron Klein.
Hey, Vice President Kim and members of the board, especially Director Frisbee, who represents my district. I was planning to speak off the cuff, but then I got nervous and started writing things down, so pardon me for reading. My name is Aaron Klein. I live in Southeast Portland in Brentwood, Darlington. I'm a cyclist and transit user by choice. And by not spending so much on automobile travel, it leaves me, like other cyclists and transit users, more money to spend on local businesses, which I spend along 82nd at Natural Grocers, Rinconcito Yucateca, Shunfat, Bun and Pho House, Pho Kim, Pho Hung, Pho Van, Pho Oregon, Home Depot, and plenty of other places. There's a trend there. I also travel by the Green Line, which is typically standing room only these days on the single train sets that you're frequently running, at least 3 times a week to work downtown and for activities in Northeast Portland. Like I said, I regularly ride the 72 to buy groceries, dine out, and shop along 82nd Avenue. 12 years ago, my first job after moving to Portland was as a TriMet bus operator. Y'all mercifully let me go after 3 weeks of training because I wasn't very good at driving a bus. But during that time, I had an immense amount of pride getting to work for TriMet and be part of making our region's transit world-class. Y'all were building transit bridges, opening new MAX lines, and getting started on the FX lines. I trust that you are all as proud of our transit system as I am and are dedicated to making it not an alternative, but rather the best way to get around the region. I'm concerned that shortening the Green Line to serve only between Clackamas Town Center and Gateway is an unnecessary step backwards. I recently read a news piece saying that this will only require 1 additional transfer for travelers. This is not true. Folks traveling from Southeast Portland to PSU will need to transfer once at Gateway onto either the red or blue line, and again at Rose Quarter or Pioneer Square onto the yellow line. We don't live in New York City, where transfers are quick. Each transfer can add 10 to 12 minutes of travel time during peak times, and even more during off-peak. This is unacceptable. This trip will become almost untenable for folks who first travel by bus from East County or Clackamas County to Clackamas Town Center. I urge you to reconsider. If you must shorten the Green Line as a cost-saving measure, I urge you to run it to Rose Quarter, which will reduce 1 additional transfer, allowing transfers directly to the yellow line. I also urge you to move forward with improving access to 82nd Avenue businesses by installing business access and transit lanes along 82nd Avenue. This is what it takes to make transit the best option and to get around our region. Also support the union effort spoke earlier. we can have we need to spend resources on transportation and on supporting riders. That's what's going to make this system the best, and will convince other residents of the region and our state lawmakers to fund our system the way it deserves to be funded. Thanks for listening to me.
Thank you for your testimony. With no other members of the public signed up to testify, I'll close the public forum. We'll now proceed to the board report section of our business meeting. I'll begin by asking Director Graham to present a report from the recent meeting of the Committee on Accessible Transportation, known as CAT. Director Graham.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. We had a very full CAT meeting, and a lot of it was focused on safety and some of the projects that are coming up. We were pleased to introduce Multnomah County Sheriff Captain Jordan, who talked about TriMet security resources and also about the high visibility missions in outer southeast Portland, and he addressed some of the committee's concerns, including drug use and assaults. The CAT members specifically raised concerns about safety on the Blue Line and made some specific requests about strategies that could be used to address those issues, such as fare gates or protected platforms. The Fixed Route Subcommittee provided updates on the newly designed family bus shelters that are currently being installed in the system, and once those are installed, the CAT committee will go out and test them and see them in person. They talked about the Outer Powell Transportation Safety Project. There have been a lot of safety concerns along that corridor, but they're pretty confident that the investments there will help to transform the area, including adding sidewalks and more pedestrian crossings. One issue that has been raised repeatedly are the ADA pass-ups on the line 72 at 82nd Avenue, and I know that's been a point of discussion for a while. So the team has asked for more information to understand the rate of ADA pass-ups and why those are going up. The Wayfinding Subcommittee looked at website accessibility improvements, talked about issues with QR stickers, code stickers blocking window accessibility, and the lack of octagonal poles at FX stops. Those are really important for low vision people and wayfinding for those riders. The staff, also talked a little bit about the stop announcement progress, or the team is working on there making better stop announcements, as well as an update on IRA, which is the pilot program providing live stream visual interpreters to support low rider vision, blind or low rider vision. The 82nd Avenue Community Advisory Committee talked about their support for BAT lanes and understands the decision timeline for those. I do also want to mention that members of CAT and the TriMet staff attended the Oregon Transportation Association Conference in Bend in early November. We had a couple of CAT members who made presentations, and Jan Campbell was presented a Lifetime Achievement Award at the conference. And then finally, we had a presentation on the Beaverton and Oregon City Transit Center redesigns and the role of the orientation and mobility research in both projects. So we had an update from Amy Parker, who is an associate professor at PSU, and PSU has been partnering to look at the ways that these centers can support blind, deaf, blind, and low vision riders through research. So we're really pleased to have that partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about the CAT report? Seeing none, I'll ask Director Flowers to present a report from the recent meeting of the Metro Policy Advisory Committee, please.
Yeah, sure. So for a little back context, back in October, MPAC heard an update from Metro staff on the Regional Housing Coordination Strategy, which is part of the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis. And in November, the group actually voted to recommend the approval of that strategy to Metro Council, including actions Metro can take to promote housing production and affordability. Both months, actually, in October and November, we received briefings from Metro staff regarding their future vision update, which is a task required within Metro's charter. It's an aspirational process to define the preferred vision for our region over the course of the next 50 years. And they went through a process of pulling together a 23-member commission to drive that work forward. They've been meeting monthly since September, so it's nice to receive updates from them. In October, MPAC approved recommendations on proposed amendments to land use-related provisions within Metro Code to ease the burden on property owners seeking to annex into Metro's boundaries, and to also comply with Metro Council's 22 inclusive and plain language policy. And last things last here, MPAC received informational briefings on 2 projects that folks are excited about around the region: Happy Valley's planned development strategy for a new downtown district, and of course, Metro's cooling corridor study, which explores regional government's role in addressing extreme heat in the region. And we meet again next week, December 17th.
Thank you, Director Flowers. Any questions or comments about the MPAC report? Seeing none, I'll provide a report now on the Defined Benefit Pension Trust meeting that was held on November 19th. Some of the significant agenda items included the following. 1, actuaries from Chiron presented the results of the actuarial valuation of the ATU Defined Benefit Pension Plan. This report is posted on TriMet's public-facing website under Transparency and Accountability. Second one, our investment advisors from Makita presented the investment portfolio results for the recent quarter ending in September 30th. Makita also reviewed and presented minor revisions to the investment policy statement, and the trustees adopted those changes anonymously. Any questions or comments? Thank you. It was a productive meeting. Next, I'll provide a report on this morning's Finance and Audit Committee meeting. We talked about 2 items. 1, budget balancing scorecard. We reviewed the budget balance scorecard, which is a standing agenda item in the F&A committee meetings. The scorecard presents forecasted financial information from fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2040, outlining the long-term financial impact of potential new revenues and estimated cost savings from service cuts and spending reductions. And moving forward, this item would come to the board on a monthly basis as well. The next item was 2026 bond issuance update. We discussed the upcoming 2026 bond issuance consideration. At the January board meeting, there will be a request for to authorize TriMet to issue up to $150 million in payroll tax revenue bonds. In F&A, we reviewed the presentation that demonstrated TriMet will remain below the 7.5% debt limit per our debt policy after this bond issuance. The 2026 bond issuance will help fund the following projects: light rail vehicle replacement, TV highway transit improvements, 82nd Avenue transit improvements, bus purchases, Columbia bus base. And this item will come in the new year, especially as we discuss these projects. Comments or questions? Thank you. And now, I'll do a report from Director Robert Kellogg. Save like a dessert.
Thank you. So I'm not on the agenda, but I just asked for a couple of minutes. Last month, I went on a fair enforcement mission with Andrew Wilson and several of our fine CSS and CSO folks. I wanted to do that because we've talked a lot about fair enforcement and really to see what's going on the ground out there. I would encourage each of you, and Andrew definitely would encourage each of you to go out and do this and just see what's happening on our system. Talking with the folks who are out there, seeing the incredible skills they have to de-escalate situations, right? Because every train that we went on, there was something to address, either a safety issue, a fare issue, and to see them doing this, 8-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts every day, it's really extraordinary. And the riders, the response to these people is somewhere between, hey, I'm sorry I didn't pay my fare, to profanity, I'm going to push you and run off the train. So, they're facing some serious challenges out there, and they need some tools that we can help them with in the future. But before we get into that discussion, again, I'd like to invite everybody to go out and have this experience so that we can have an informed discussion about how we enforce fair and about how we empower our employees to deal with problem riders. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And finally, I'll provide a report on November 12th board retreat we've had last month. There is a draft summary report from David Jackson Advisory, which are the consultants who led our discussion, and it's in the board portal. And please review it, and if you have any questions, comments, please refer those to me as indicated in the cover to the report from President Lewis. And after the report is finalized, we'll have an opportunity to discuss and plan for follow-ups after the holidays. And this is a reminder for everyone to take the assessment. It was sent out, I think, the day before Thanksgiving, along with some reminders. Are there any questions or comments on the board retreat? But please do consider and refer those to me and President Lewis so that we can have a more robust discussion later on. All right. Now I'll turn to our General Manager for his monthly report. General Manager Dessou.
Morning, Board. Vice President Kim, members of the board, community partners that were here, TriMet staff, thank you for being here this morning, and the public. A couple things I would like to start off with, some of the public testimony. I want to say to the SRTs that TriMet is very grateful for the services that the SRTs provide us, TriMet and our riders. But I do want to let the board know that TriMet is a public body, and therefore we're covered by the Public Employees Collective Bargaining Act. And this means that we are to remain neutral during any effort of our employees unionizing. SRTs are not TriMet employees. They're contracted employees. And it would not be appropriate for us to take a position on unionization of that workforce. However, though, TriMet respects the workers have a right to unionize, and the majority of TriMet employees have been represented by the Amalgamated Transit Union, ATU, for decades. So we'll continue to provide a secured and supportive environment for all of our safety and security employees, including our SRTs, through any workforce changes. So that's one. The second point I would like to bring up from the public is that I know there were comments about 82nd Avenue, and I appreciate the thoughtful discussions and shared comments to making the right decisions for this project. I know that there's going to be a conversation today, a briefing, that you'll be able to talk with each other about it. But our collective goal remains to deliver the best possible 82nd Avenue transit project for the community we serve. There's a couple of letters that I put into your emails that we received from some key stakeholders this week that's been impactful. And this kind of input is going to be helpful as we move forward in the process. And in fact, we're working to convene many of these stakeholders to further hear their perspectives and gather input on what's right for the project. So we're hoping for that meeting to happen in early January, and I'll report back to you as soon as that takes place. So in my report this morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about the TriMet October ridership. You'll hear our monthly operations analysis, an update on our budget balance and scorecard from our Chief Financial Officer, and then a monthly safety and security report. I'll update you on our plans for New Year's Eve, and then finally, I'll share our 2025 recap video. So taking a moment to reflect on all that we've accomplished by working together this year. So let me start with ridership. This morning, we're looking back at our numbers from October, and data from November is quite not yet ready. And TriMet, in October, TriMet provided 5.8 million rides. That's down about 17,000 rides from October of 2024. While 2024 was a strong month in which there was no, there was no disruptions for improvement work, this October of 2025, we've seen a week-long East Side Max Improvements project. and that project primarily impacted the Max Red Line. It also disrupted our blue, green, and red lines for a full day of service. Our ridership was down in October, but West and Bus both showed a year-over-year improvement to ridership. So now I'd like to bring up our Director of Transit System Support Services, Les Spittler, and Senior Analyst for Operations and Planning, Catherine Keeling. They will present our monthly operations analysis. So Les and Catherine, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou. Good morning, Vice President Kim, members of the board. It's nice to see you, Director Frisbee. Congratulations. As General Manager Dessou said, we're here to present the operations analysis for October. At the January meeting, we'll present on both November and December metrics. Turn it over to Catherine for an overview on ridership.
Next slide. October's system-wide ridership was about 1% less than last year. Bus, West, and ATP demonstrated positive growth. Max ridership is down about 8.9%. Max ridership on weekends is performing relatively well, where it lags is on the weekdays. We discussed a bit about this last month. There are some external challenges from a soft office space market. However, our public affairs teams continues to champion the transit accessibility of cultural activities and weekend events. They're promoting TriMet where there is momentum and supporting the vibrancy of these local spaces. Next slide. Here's another way of looking at our ridership changes over year prior. October tends to be a strong ridership month in terms of volume. Next slide.
All right, on to bus. Boarding rides per revenue hour is at a 2-year high, and we've reached a 2-year high for both bus, West, and ATP. And the more productive our service is, as far as rides per revenue hour, that speaks to cost effectiveness. So that's a huge shout out to our transportation, service delivery, and service planning teams. On-time performance is above target and appears to be stable. Mean distance between failure fell slightly from September. The decrease was driven by an increase in engine and cooling and vehicle body failures, and those increases made up approximately 50% of the increase in failures for the month of October over the month of September.
For Max, you may notice the on-time performance figures are under review. We have been examining on-time performance for a few months now, inviting diverse perspectives on the matter. Due to multidisciplinary attentiveness, a minor equipment miscalibration was found to be skewing on-time performance. The equipment issue was in no way posing a safety threat or even a customer experience threat. There is a plan to back correct the on-time performance values from the time that the issue began. However, we are still in the process of squaring that away. What is known at this time is that the Max on-time performance is actually better than previously reported. And again, the updated figures should be available in early 2026. I also want to highlight the bounce back on preventative maintenance compliance. Quick refresher, preventative maintenance compliance is how well we adhere to the maintenance schedule designed to ensure high mechanical performance. When Les and I connected with rail management about the lower than usual performance in August and September, they assured us that while there was a short attenuation in staffing, their recent hires would be trained up and ready in October. Like they predicted, we see preventative maintenance compliance bouncing back to where we like to see it, and we're thankful for the diligence of our recruiters and trainers to enable our newer direct hires to be quickly plugged in and getting the work done. Next slide.
Okay, accessible transportation. I mentioned this earlier, but boarding rides per revenue hour continues to increase, is at a 2-year high, and there's been a focus on that for several months now, so it's good to see that that number continues to go up. On-time performance, while not quite at the target, is still pretty good, just under 90%. On the complaint side, things are looking really good. Complaints have been decreasing since July due to a concerted effort to communicate more effectively
to the riders of that service as far as arrival time and pickup of those vehicles. And so when you communicate, manage people's expectations, they are much less likely to lodge any sort of complaint. And so that's been really good to see. On mean distance between failure, as you know, the ATP fleet is aging. Those vehicles have a useful life of 5 years, and some of our vehicles in service today are approaching 12 years. So you can see that the preventative maintenance compliance is at 100%. That's a testament to Eileen and her team and Penske's discipline in keeping those PM compliance activities when they need to be scheduled. And we hope to continue to see that as newer vehicles replace older vehicles, we expect to see that number continue to go up.
And Wes's performance is looking good all around. The boarding rides per revenue hour is a difficult metric to move, but they've been besting 2024 numbers for every month in 2025 to date. And lastly, we have the 12-month look back with the metrics and their definitions. Thank you for your time this morning. This concludes our overview.
Thank you guys very much. I'm sure there'll be questions in the end, so we'll be calling you back.
General
Next-
Manager, could we ask a couple follow-up questions?
Sure, absolutely.
Director Frisbee?
I will say, my brain is not at its best, so feel free to just tell me I'm wrong. When I was looking, I was surprised to see, when I was looking at the MAX numbers, that MAX has actually been underperforming since March. Not underperforming, but fewer rides than the March of 2024, I think since March. Is that, we've had maintenance and some service changes during part of that time, and I couldn't remember when we changed the late night schedule, but A, and is that correct? And B, if so, what do we think's going on there?
I can assure you that we are doing a in-depth ridership study and pulling in a lot of multidisciplinary colleagues. And while we do know that the service disruptions due to maintenance initiatives are necessary, it does make for the year-over-year comparisons really muddled. We know that great work and success is showing up evident in the work of Andrew Wilson's team, and that was a major concern vocalized in the Attitudes and Awareness Survey. So it could be just part of a natural lag for our public to recognize the changes and to make a change in their travel patterns. Certainly, it is a much wider question than the general operational data we have at hand, but we are reaching forward and out to partners in all corners of our jurisdiction to figure out what changes in actual travel demand might be part of this current that ridership is working against. For example, in November and December, a lot of trips traditionally might be driven by retail, and we know that retail is doing well in the downtown sector. However, every single year, e-commerce takes a bigger bite out of these shopping patterns. So we're still assessing these the larger environment that we're in, and also trying to figure out why MAX is behaving differently than bus. The bus system is a little more flexible, so we do know that over the course of the year, service planning has been able to tweak bus routes a little more adeptly. Yeah. And so we think, if they change a route, it's going to be to increase rides and ridership, especially to better serve employment centers. So it's a great question. We're paying attention. Sam Dessou has asked for a ridership deep dive, and to this date, we are still working on it. But we do believe that the performance in terms of on-time performance is doing better than originally thought. It has been improving. And we also know that Andrew Wilson's team has been addressing some primary concerns.
The discontinuation of the night max occurred in August of 2024.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Director Kellogg asked a similar question a couple months ago. We are continuing to partner with other divisions and departments, like our public affairs team, to get survey data to see where are the levers that are within our control to leverage. There'll be more to come in future months.
Can we get that report when it comes back? I
This
think
is-
this is worth tracking.
Absolutely. This is top of mind for us, and we'll get it to the board as soon as we receive it.
And if they're going to bus, that's great. If they're not,
Thank you for the analysis. General Manager.
Thank you.
Okay, next up this morning is our Chief Financial Officer, Nancy Young Oliver. She will come up and share the latest on our budget, including walking you through the latest updates to the budget scorecard. So Nancy, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sam, and good morning, members of the board. So before you is our budget balancing scorecard, which I know that you've seen in the past. The biggest changes, though, and if you can go ahead and advance, I want to dive into each one of these just a little bit more. When you look at the revenue, so of course, a part of our plan is to increase our continuing revenues. That was made up of two components. One was STIF, and another one is a fare increase. As you know, the transportation package that was originally approved is a temporary 2-year package, and that is now in jeopardy with the signatures being gathered. So that piece of our plan, we are going to have to go back, roll up our sleeves a little bit further, and come up with another plan. But that's the main piece that I need to share with you, the biggest change since we've last discussed this. We still have a potential consideration for a fair increase on there when we look at our continuing revenues. So we'll either need to go back to the table with a stiff increase, identify new sources, or look at our existing revenues and how we can increase those. Advance, please. When you look at our service, as you know, we're making some modifications in December and March. And as you look at the green bar, we are considering those implemented. I know that Alan and Tom are bringing to you a proposal for changes in the fall of 2026, and once a decision has been made on those changes, you'll see that green bar, those numbers change with whatever decisions are made. Advance, please. When it comes to spending reductions, there's a lot more levers in this area than there are in the other two. To date, we've looked at our continuing expenses of $7.5 million and our one-time only increases of $7.5 million and pausing those for a 3-year period of time. As you know, we've taken some existing cuts across our division. We've experienced about 67, 68 position cuts. And then we've made other cuts as well, including our materials and services. At this time, we're looking at our service contracts that we have in place that requires quite a bit more effort because it affects external parties to TriMet. And then our zero-based budgeted growth reduction from 5% down to 4%, we'll have better numbers for you once we have a proposed budget to bring to you. So I'll just pause there and see if there's any questions.
Director Kellogg.
Thank you for your report. I just wanted to clarify a little bit on the transportation package.
Yeah.
It hasn't qualified yet with the number of signatures. Is that accurate?
That is my understanding, and I think, yeah, that is correct.
Okay, so it has qualified or has not?
It hasn't, they have until the end of the month to gather signatures, and
Yep.
then those signatures need to be validated.
Okay, and assuming they are and it qualifies for the ballot, there won't be that 0.1 increase, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what does that mean in terms of just raw dollars? How much are we looking at not getting for fiscal 2026?
Yeah, can you put the slide back up for the revenue, please?
I couldn't read those numbers.
Go backwards, yeah, it's kind of small. Go backwards, please, to the,
Revenue.
there we go. Yeah, thank you. So in fiscal year 2026, that would be 9.1 million.
Mm-hmm.
In 20.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so how and again, this is probably an impossible question to answer because it's a 50-50. How are you operating? Are you operating on the assumption that that money's not going to be there? Or,
We are going to go forward with operating that it's not going to be there, because as it is that if it goes to a vote, I'm not sure when it would go to a vote, but I know that the increase would be paused until that has been determined.
okay.
Can I
Thank
jump in for just a moment with
Please.
Nancy? As she stated, we're operating that they've received close to 200,000 signatures. Yeah, and we feel sure that it will be certified. So that means there will be no collection of that money. So we're moving forward knowing that it's not going to be there for the next half of the new year, the first half of it. And what we're told, and JC, you could correct me if I'm wrong, that if it's certified, it will be on the November ballot of 2026.
Not May?
November.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Yeah, I think there are threats of a walkout from the Republican side of the aisle. They try to push it to May. So the presumption would be that it would take place in November. But one way or another, I think that the way the agency is framing this is correct. Not only will we not receive that revenue as long as this is in limbo, but just thinking about the last few times our state has considered even something as simple as a gas tax increase via ballot measure, those don't tend to fare too well. So I'm actually wondering how this impacts the way we're thinking about our short session strategy in 2026 and our long session strategy in 2027. If there's been any conversation on that just yet.
That's for JC to answer.
Nice handoff.
So I can take this offline too with you and give you a little bit more further insight, but currently we're having a lot of conversations. We have been told that it's not a topic that is they want to bring up at this point in time with the short session because there's some things that they really want to get to. But we are continuing that conversation as we getting serious about the service cuts. Things are getting real for folks. And so I think that them understanding more about our budget is incredibly important. So we continue those conversations. I would also just note that this isn't just a TriMet issue. This is obviously statewide, and some of those smaller districts are hurting incredibly hard and are actually taking more severe cuts than we are right now. So it is definitely a statewide issue that we're trying to deal with. Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy. Once the holidays wrap up with the new year is here, we have a big job to do. We're going to begin talking to the public about significant changes coming to our service later in 2026, adjustments to begin bringing service in line with our funding are already underway. We've made some efficiency changes to 5 bus lines in November 30th, and we plan similar efficiency changes on 4 other lines in March as we move forward. These initial adjustments occur at times where analysis show fewer people are riding, but let me be clear, every ride is important to the person who's taking it. So while relative small, we understand these changes affect people's lives and their ability to connect with opportunities. So that's why it's critical to connect with them and hear their feedback on upcoming service changes that will be more impactful as we move forward. We also will be sharing those proposed service changes that will be implemented later in 2026 on January 5th to the public and collecting feedback through January 31st. They're based on the feedback to our fall 2025 service priority surveys, as well as ridership trends and other factors. And as you recall, that you've heard a summary of that feedback at the November board retreat. So over the month of January, we'll have the proposal online at trimet.org/service cuts and invite people to commit and comment on it. We'll spread the word through email, social media, news releases, and direct communications with key partners. So for more significant change, we will send direct mail to nearby addresses and post information at bus stops as we move forward. The team will host 3 online open houses. One will be in English, one in Spanish. The third online open house will be focused on senior adults or older adults and people with disabilities. We're planning 8 in-person open houses in January. Riders and members of the public will be encouraged to attend. I would love to, for each of your districts, for you to be there. I'm going to make sure that I get a chance to get out and attend and hear what people are saying. We also will be partnering with our community-based organizations to recruit participants for these, as well for focus groups where we can reach more non-English language speakers. So lots going on with the month of January with looking at our proposed service reductions. And just know, again, from staff, we will roll out staff's recommendation on January 5th, and we'll have listening sessions and survey sections and feedback through the month of January. February, people will be able to come to you, to the board, public testimony. Also, March 18th, we have a public forum only for you. And also, the end of March, when the board will then make decisions on what service that we will move forward with, reductions or not. So wanted to kind of give you the timeline and the schedule and what's taking place. Next this morning, Andrew Wilson, our Chief Safety Security Officer. Oops.
Oh, I just had a real quick question on that. Thank you so much for providing that timeline and all the opportunities to engage. I am certain that we will get a lot of direct communication as we go through this process. And if you could send us an email or let us know how and where you'd like us to channel that information and that advocacy, that would be very helpful.
Will do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So Andrew, our Safety and Security Chief, is going to talk with us about his monthly safety and security report. So over to you.
Thank you, Sam. I just want to say again, good morning to the TriMet Board of Directors. Thomas, fun to have you in that role. And we have an extra person too, Tyler, and an awesome sweater. So, anyway, good to be with you this morning. I'll make this brief. We did want to give an update on our fare enforcement activity as well as citations and warnings kind of report. You've seen this before, it's no different. I do want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Director Kellogg for coming out with the team. I think that was really meaningful, and extend that same invitation to all of you if fits in your schedule. Not just for the CSS team too, but also for the SRT. I go out with them as well. They do fantastic work, just a wonderful team to work with. So fare enforcement activity, you're going to know there has been kind of a decline in some of that activity. I'm tracking that. We're attributing that mostly to the fact that we had been holding off on replacing 5 members that had actually left this team during the workforce assessment. Those folks have already accepted their offers, and they're going to be joining the team this month. So that we think will give us a better uptick in fare enforcement activity. If you go to the next slide, we're also seeing that same kind of downward trend on fare and code enforcement. You might remember that this is why I put in the fare activities, because I want to make sure that we're tracking both activity as well as fare and code enforcement. This team does incredible work. It is unbiased, and it is really well accepted by our community. And I think, Director Kellogg saw that firsthand. I'm really proud of this team and the work they do. Not all of the work they do is illustrated in these 2 slides, because you have folks that walk off. You have folks that feel more comfortable that the enforcement activity is being done. And so I think, some of the outcomes of this can also be found in that attitude and awareness survey and others as we kind of grow a community that's comfortable with fare and code enforcement and increase that. So, but I'll just go to the next slide. reports of smoke and fumes. So you're going to see, obviously, we've been having that continued downward trend. That's been helped by things like Senate Bill 1553 and HB 4002, other community efforts around drug use on the streets, which has helped us as a public transit carrier. But you do notice that there you'll see that same uptick in November. It's not quite as bad as last November. We attribute that to when things get cold outside, people seek trains for this kind of behavior. So our teams are prepared for that. And I think we're seeing that downward trend even compared to last November. So we've been really trying to educate and enforce around this for years now, but it does uptick in the colder months, which we're trying to address. If you look at the next slide, again, very good downward trend from a rail perspective, and we continue to chart that. If we go to the next slide, again, you heard from our safety response team, some of those members this morning. This is a phenomenal team. I'm extremely proud of these individuals. One of them up here, Allie, I think maybe two of you might remember, she came about 2.5 years ago and presented and did it again. Incredible stories out of this team, not only for their own personal growth, but for their impact in community. And I've said to you before, this is a best-in-class team around the nation. And I think a lot of it, all of it is our people. They're just really good people that get added to this program, and we fully support them. So this is some of the activities. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Thanks, Felicia. And then this is the last slide here, but you'll see that number one is that welfare check, and there's a lot of that activity that's necessary out on the system. We not only help our system, but we help the community with this team, and so proud of that work. And that concludes the report. Any questions?
Thanks, Andrew. I was on this morning, and they were out doing their job as well, so really appreciate it.
We set that up. No, I'm kidding. No, we didn't.
Board, can you believe that this is our final board meeting for 2025? Yeah, just unbelievable. So as we close the year out with holiday festivities, just like to remind everyone that TriMet is here for you. It's our mission to provide safe, reliable transportation day in and day out. And also the holidays are no different. So if holidays plans include alcohol, consider taking transit rather than getting behind the wheel. Transit is always the better alternative to drinking and driving. That's why we will once again offer free rides after 8 p.m. on New Year's Eve. And I want to thank our sponsor, the Oregonians Credit Union, for coming through for TriMet and helping TriMet continue our long-running tradition. So really thanks to them for being a sponsor here. The service we provide will and can save lives, so please ride with us. And then with 2025 quickly coming to a close, it's that time of the year when we pause and really reflect. We have a video to share with you this morning that highlights all that we've accomplished this year for our riders and the region. So every single person in this room played a role in some way. So let's sit back, relax, and enjoy the next few minutes while I share this year-end video with you.
An event or opportunity. We continued breaking down barriers to transit. More than 32,000 people are using our income-based reduced fare program to get unlimited monthly rides for just $28. We gave out 30,000 summer passes for teens. We partnered with Providence Park and Oregon Zoo for 70 ticket-to-ride events. And riders tapped their way onto transit using a bank card or phone 5 million times. This year, we expanded real-time information with 700 digital displays at our stops and stations, showing when your bus or train would get there. For riders who are visually impaired, we added 160 devices to get audio announcements of arriving times and other information. We strengthened our digital connections too. Riders Club grew to 61,300 members. We stepped into new spaces, creating TriMet TikTok and Blue Sky accounts that already have thousands of followers. Our Facebook and Instagram communities continued strong with 95,000 followers and growing. And Good Day Oregon now shares max travel times as part of its comprehensive First Alert traffic report. Keeping our system in a state of good repair is one of the most important things we do. We're nearing completion on the Northeast 82nd Avenue Max Station improvements. We tackled other improvements in the Robertson Tunnel, upgraded rail through the Fish Hook, and more. We also rolled out a new tensioning system that helps Max operate more reliably during extreme heat. These are investments that will keep riders moving for decades. This year, we finished receiving all 30 of our Type 6 MAX trains. Some of the trains started service in 2025, allowing us to phase out 11 Type 1s. We continued our commitment to cleaner fuels, operating 34 battery electric buses and 630 buses on renewable diesel or R99. It also powers our 6 West trains. Thanks to federal support, we opened the Southeast Park Avenue Park and Ride expansion, giving riders more options. We began testing our first new bus shelter design in 30 years, and we celebrated 10 years of Tillicum Crossing, Bridge of the People, a symbol of innovation and community pride. We made paying fares easier with 169 new hop cart machines at Max and West stations and 689 new fare boxes on buses. And we activated 59 blue light security phones, connecting riders with our Security Operations Center at the touch of a button. Our clean team worked harder, cleaning buses and trains and expanding efforts across our 533 square mile service area, picking up litter and washing away graffiti. Plus, our facilities maintenance team tackled more than 100,000 cleanups this year, from power washing stations to sprucing up transit centers. Clean, safe spaces matter, and we're committed to keeping them that way. We're innovating too. The Lyft Instacart pallet helps riders get necessities while avoiding difficult shopping trips, saving them time and helping TriMet save money. We've launched TriMet Next, our new microtransit service, helping people connect with their community, and TriMet service in South Gresham. And we saw major transit-oriented development projects take shape, projects that help create vibrant communities connected by transit. The 82nd Avenue Transit Project reached 60% design. The TV Highway Transit and Safety Project moved forward, and we continued to support development of the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program. Through winter storms, large projects, and service changes, our employees and riders always showed up. We asked for your input on some of our biggest decisions, and you delivered. Thank you. Every day of 2025, we stayed focused on our mission to provide safe, convenient, reliable, accessible transit service that is welcoming for all. Thank you for riding with us in 2025.
Board, I just want to say that we have world-class employees that work for TriMet, and I just want to give them a big round of applause for this year. This is absolutely incredible, and as the words out of my mouth that I say all the time is that it takes a village, and the village has shown up for 2025. Thank you, Vice President Kim and Board. That concludes my remarks this morning.
Thank you, General Manager Dessou, for your leadership and for everything. I also appreciate every single one of our operators and the rest of the staff. So thank you. What a year. And I didn't quite think about how we're actually at the end of the year until when you said this is the last meeting. Comments, questions from the rest of the board? No. Seeing none, we'll move forward. We'll take a short break. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. You know, it's so primitive, man. It's a noise. It's like I'm gonna have a louder noise, and therefore.
See how effective it is?
Yeah. I know it cuts through. It's the whistle. I was gonna say, like, hey, the 5 of that was you know?
Yeah.
It was a joke, but I mean, you actually saw it, like, you were there.
I had to punch a dude, yeah. No, but there was, I mean.
Alrighty, thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. Test, 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 test. Yeah, I am on. We'll go ahead and get started, folks.
If I could do that whistle thing.
I know that little bit.
All right, folks.
Listen up. Listen up.
All right, let's turn to today's consent agenda. Thank you for your patience. Items appearing on the consent agenda are considered routine and may be approved by the board in one blanket motion. This morning, the consent agenda consists of 3 items: approving the minutes of our last meeting of October 22, 2025, resolution directing that all ordinances be read by title only, and approving resolution 25-1253, authorizing a contract modification with Peterson Power Systems, Inc. for the procurement of 1 additional emergency backup generator. Does any director wish to have this item removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none?
Motion to approve consent agenda as read.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll now vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move to our resolutions on the regular agenda. First, we'll consider resolution number 25-1254, approving TriMet's updated agency safety plan. Mr. General Manager, do you have any comments, please?
Thanks, Vice President Kim, Board Directors. This resolution approves TriMet's 2026 revised agency safety plan to go in effect on January 1st, 2026. This action fulfills a Federal Transit Administration requirement. It renews our commitment to safety and allows TriMet to receive FTA funds. Elements of the plan include safety performance measures concerning transit worker assaults, fatalities, injuries, safety events, and system reliability state of good repair. These measures allow TriMet to set targets, gauge performance, and take affirmative steps to incorporate improvements. The updated plan has been thoroughly reviewed by myself Chief Safety and Security Officer Andrew Wilson, the executive team, and other internal stakeholders. The updated plan has been in your board portal since October for your review. Once approved by the board, it will be submitted to ODOT for final approval and submission to the FTA. I recommend your approval.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Just briefly, whoever put together, or the people who put together the record of revisions, thank you so very much. I read this entire plan last year and I had not have to read the entire thing again. Great benefit. So thanks for everybody who worked on it.
Director Graham.
Thank you so much for this, and I agree wholeheartedly with that comment. One thing that I was thinking about, and Director Kim, this is more for us to think about as a board, is I think it would be great when we're formulating the general manager's goals to really make reference to this plan specifically, because I know that there is a goal related to safety, and in this year it was formulated to be around presence on the system, but there are so many dimensions of safety that I appreciate that TriMet is really paying attention to, and so I would like to kind of think more holistically about how we talk about that goal at the highest level.
Great idea.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there a motion to approve resolution number 25-1254?
Approve, a motion, so moved. You're doing
Any
great.
second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now consider resolution number 25-1255, appointing members to the 2026-2027 HB 2017 Transit Advisory Committee. Mr. General Manager, comments, please.
Vice President Kim, members of the board, the HB 2017 Transit Advisory Committee helps develop a plan for projects and programs funded by HB 2017, also known as Keep Oregon Moving. Committee members are appointed for 2-year terms and can be reappointed to serve for up to 8 years. This resolution requests authorization for the reappointment of 10 members and the initial appointment of 12 new members. Director of Policy and Planning Tom Mills joins us now with more details on the advisory committee and TriMet's role with it. So Tom, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Vice President Kim and TriMet Board. Again, my name is Tom Mills. I'm the Director of Mobility Planning and Policy, and I have been leading the process for developing the biennial STIF plan for the Tri-County region for the last 8 years. And every 2 years, we must appoint and reappoint our advisory committee for that effort. If we can go to the next slide, please. So just a quick reminder of what is STIF. STIF stands for the Statewide Transportation Improvement Fund. It was part of the HB 2017 Keep Oregon Moving Act that was passed at the 2017 legislature. It is funded by an employee payroll tax of 0.1% on all employee payroll statewide. I'll want to reaffirm it's an employee payroll tax as opposed to our employer payroll tax, which is locally for our businesses, paid for by our businesses. 90% of the funds that are generated by the payroll tax come back to the area where they were generated. And TriMet acts as what is called the qualified entity for the Tri-County region. So we receive all funds for the region, though there are areas outside our district that are in the Tri-County that we then pass their funds through to them. And then we are also in charge of developing the plan for the entire Tri-County area, as well as conducting compliance on our partners outside the TriMet district. Next slide, please. I mentioned the plan, so we must develop a plan every 2 years, and that plan must be have some advisory by a citizens advisory committee. So currently, we're in the FY 26-27 biennium, which started on July 1st of this year. However, the committee needs to start work on the FY 28-29 plan. We estimate, or I should say ODOT estimates that that plan will generate, or will be funded by $145 million of new STIF funds coming in. That's the base amount. It doesn't include carryover from previous years, and it doesn't include the STIF increase that is currently was in the transportation package and may be going to the ballot. The plan will include money for TriMet, but also for transportation providers outside of TriMet. So the committee itself, the resolution in front of you, is a committee of 22 board members representing customers, underserved communities, transit providers, seniors, people with disabilities, business associations, and jurisdictions. Normally, we try to have, there are, as Sam said, there are 12 new appointees and 10 reappointments. Normally, we try to stagger it better than that. Unfortunately, this year, there were a number of committee members who chose to leave the committee. Some just retired. Others were in TriMet board. They were the TriMet board district members. They moved away. So we had an unusually high number of people leave the committee than we normally do, which is why we have so many first-time appointments. The board is commissioned with appointing the members and approving the bylaws. The committee has to meet at least twice a year, although as we're developing the plan, we actually meet monthly. And as I mentioned, you're in charge of appointments and reappointments. Last slide, please. So I just want to give you a heads up about other STIF items coming to the board this year, some of which will be coming in the next couple months. ODOT has asked us to revise our bylaws. We're a little bit out of compliance with STIF rules on the bylaws, and the TriMet board is required to approve those. We also, every 2 years now, the state allows qualified entities to amend the STIF plan because you can't spend money that's not included in the plan. And so to give qualified entities more flexibility, they allow for an amendment. That will also be coming to you in the next couple of months. I will say I do not believe TriMet will be changing our STIF plan much, but our partners may be. And then lastly, much later in the year, we will have the FY 28-29 STIF plan before you for approval. That's it.
Thank you, Don. Director Graham?
I was just curious, and this is more for my knowledge, how are the co-chairs selected?
Thanks for asking. So every 2 years, after you appoint and reappoint, at our first meeting, we vote on our co-chairs. I should say the committee votes on their co-chairs. Yeah.
Director Frisbee?
Thank you for putting this together. I just want to confirm, sorry if this is too nitpicky, but Ian Stude, the Director of Transportation for PSU, who's listed as a District 4 rep, I want to make sure he lives in District 4 because PSU is not in District 4. Although plenty of students.
Yeah, he lives in
Great.
District 4. I believe it's at Halsey and 60th.
We don't need to disclose his address.
I didn't put out a,
But I just wanted to confirm. Thank you so much.
So Director Kim, I'm going to say Vice President Kim, for TriMet to receive the HB 2017 funds, the committee's plan for each funding period must be approved by the board and then submitted to the Oregon Transportation Commission. So this resolution is only the appointment of committee members for the new 2-year term. So the complete list is attached in Exhibit A, and your approval of the resolution is recommended.
Thank you. Additional discussions and comments from the board? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve resolution number 25-1255?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll now consider Resolution Number 25-1256, authorizing the acquisition by purchase or exercise of the power of eminent domain, certain real property interest necessary for the construction of the Oregon City Transit Center Improvement Project. Mr. General Manager, comments, please.
So Vice President Kim, members of the board, the Oregon City Transit Center serves 7 TriMet bus lines. An improvement project will update, reconfigure, and increase capacity of the bus layover facilities at the Oregon City Transit Center. It will also provide additional space required for future service upgrades. For the construction phase of this project, TriMet must acquire property interests. Care has been taken to design the project to have the least possible impact on private property. In this case, TriMet needs to acquire 2 temporary construction easements to be used by TriMet and our contractor. After approval of the resolution, TriMet staff will make formal written offers to purchase the temporary construction easements based on independent appraisals. TriMet would then attempt to negotiate a purchase price with each owner, which is expected. However, if an agreement cannot be reached following a reasonable period of negotiation, the passage of the resolution would allow TriMet as a last resort to proceed with condemnation of these pieces of properties using the power of eminent domain. Again, staff anticipates that negotiation settlements are likely. The acquisition of the necessary properties is a project cost, and it's included in the budget, in the project budget. The project cost is approximately $7 million. It's funded with 59% of federal funds and 41% of TriMet general funds. Your approval is recommended.
Thank you, General Manager. Does the board wish to comment before we vote? Yep, Director Frisbee, please.
I just want to say, historically, working in this area, TriMet has always had the reputation of being the agency you would prefer to have acquire your property via negotiation or eminent domain, given that we offer a better negotiation process and work more closely with our partners. And I just want to say, I appreciate that, and I know we will continue to do that because those folks are part of our community and hopefully part of our ridership. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve Resolution Number 25-1256?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I now request our Director of Legal Services, Eric Van Hagen, to read Ordinance Number 380 by title only.
Thank you, Director Kim. Ordinance number 380 of the Tri-County Metropolitan Transportation District of Oregon, amending Chapter 14 of the TriMet Code to revise the definition of net earnings from self-employment. This is a first reading and public hearing of this ordinance.
Oh, yeah, we pulled it in January. Yeah. Thank you, Eric. At this time, I'll open the public hearing on Ordinance Number 380, amending Chapter 14 of the TriMet Code to revise the definition of net earnings from self-employment. Is there anyone present to who wish to speak concerning Ordinance Number 380? Seeing none, Mr. General Manager, following our first reading and the public hearing, any comments on Ordinance Number 380, please?
Thanks, Vice President Kim, members of the board. This is a procedural business ordinance, an annual housekeeping item. It reconnects TriMet Code to the federal tax code, providing clarity for taxpayers and the IRS.
Thank you. We'll not be voting on Ordinance Number 380 until its second reading, which will take place during our January board meeting. However, at this time, the board members have questions or comments? Wonderful. Seeing none, we'll proceed. Thank you. That concludes our formal business for today. At this time, the board's business meeting is adjourned. We're now going to begin a board briefing on the 82nd Avenue project update, and then TriMet North Terminus off-street bus layover facility requirement. We'll now have a board briefing on the 82nd Avenue project. General Manager, comments, please.
Thanks, Vice President Kim. Before I turn this over to our presenters, The 82nd Avenue Transit Project recently received a very positive indicator from the federal government. The FTA assigned the project a positive mid-cycle rating of medium-high. That rating affirms the project is a strong investment in transit and economic development. It's a significant step forward in the process to receive federal funding. Very good news indeed. While the project team updated the board in October, they're back today for this briefing to give you more opportunity to learn about the project, ask questions, and for you to be able to talk with each other. I want you to know that I am heavily invested in the 82nd Avenue project. This is a corridor that I really care about, and I'm committed to getting it right the first time. So I've already taken the executive team out on the corridor to help them understand the project really up close, and we're going to be putting together a dedicated tour for you as well, somewhere in the early part of January, to get you out and looking at the corridor itself. Also bring quite a bit of experience to this conversation. I've been involved with 4 different BRT startups in 3 different states. And I do want to say to you is none of those projects included protected lanes or bat lanes, and it didn't necessarily affect the overall performance of the line. That said, I want you to know that I am a strong supporter of bat lanes and the value that they bring to transit reliability. While our budget and the federal funding timeline creates real constraints, they don't lessen my commitment to use this innovative tool where it makes sense. 82nd Avenue is already a great project. Any level of bat lane treatment will elevate it further, but I'm looking forward to continuing conversations with the project's Policy and Budget Committee on this complex topic. The committee that I chair represents Clackamas County, County Commissioner Diana Helm, our Director of PBOT, the Portland Bureau of Transportation, Millicent Williams, ODOT's Policy and Development Manager, Chris Ford, and also 2 Metro councilors, both Duncan Wong and Christine Lewis. And then Franklin Ochita is the chair of the Community Advisory Committee that sits on the committee that I chair. So the committee's recommendations, a recommendation on bat lanes, really need to address a myriad of things. One, there's regulatory requirements, there's construction challenges that are out there, there are business and community concerns, which you heard today, throughout the corridor, and we also need to find and provide a funding strategy as we move forward. So there's a lot of work to consider as we deliver a successful, high-performing corridor, and I'm really looking forward to working together on what's best for 82nd. So with that, I'll turn it over to Jamie Snook, our interim executive director of Capital Project Delivery, Engineering and Construction, Michael Kaiser, our interim director of major projects, and then Jesse Stemler, our interim director for the 82nd Avenue project. So, team, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, General Manager DeSue, Vice President Kim, and members of the TriMet Board. Thank you for having us here today. We're really excited to provide a briefing on the 82nd Avenue Transit Project. Well, you've heard some comments today, and I'm sure you've been flooded in your inboxes with other comments from other people throughout the community, and you have thoughts and interests of your own, and so we're here to provide you with a briefing and get some feedback on where we're going. So with that, I've got the project team here ready to give the presentation and answer any and all questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Members of the board, General Manager DeSue, Michael Kaiser, Interim Director of Major Projects. Thank you for the opportunity to give you an update on the work that's been happening over the last check-in, I think last month. And we provided a 10-slide presentation, so maybe we'll run through that and then open it up for discussion, because I know you all have questions. So we'll go to the next slide. Just some context in terms of where we are with the schedule as a whole, or the timeline. We've been at this starting with planning for nearly 4 years now, and we are moving into a critical year for the project, one which will be close to finalizing design, completing our environmental review process, or NEPA, and pursuing an ask from the federal government for funding of $150 million, as Sam had indicated. We received LPA approval in earlier this, I guess, last year, and are looking forward to opening this in June of 2029. So that deadline is, or that opening day is approaching quickly. Next slide. This is, on this slide, is really the charge of the project delivery group. It is delivering on aspirations while also managing the project for success. And a lot of the managing part happens kind of behind the scenes, but that part is important as well. I kind of refer to this as the mundane and the magic, where I think the BAT lanes have taken on this magic piece because it is transformational. It will contribute to how this corridor looks, feels, and operates into the future. And there are more of the mundane pieces that don't quite get the spotlight, which are the stations, the safety improvements, transit signal priority. But all of this combines to kind of underscore our priority on delivering the best transit project possible. One of the things on the regional side is looking at how do we gain support to balance both the limitations and the resources that are needed to make that project possible. We are heavily focused, as Sam had mentioned, on funding opportunities and readiness with the FTA. As Sam had mentioned, we received a rating from the federal FTA on November 21st. And that does speak to the FTA's perspective in terms of the merits of this project and represents the next stage towards funding for this project. We are currently the only project, Small Starts Capital Investment Grant project, pursuing funding next year that is rated. So that is significant, and they have also, FTA, indicated the importance of that milestone. There is no guarantee, obviously, in that process, but we are working towards being ready for that opportunity should it come. We have built strong relationships with FTA, both in DC, but also on the regional level. And we need to continue to ensure their confidence in TriMet, but also around our readiness and project readiness for funding. Next slide, please. Most recently, we have opened up this BAT lane discussion to have a broader conversation around BAT lanes. We brought that specifically to policy and budget so that we can understand their perspectives and priorities, discuss community support and concerns, understand the benefits and trade-offs that come with project delivery, but also the BAT lanes specifically, understand the challenging regulatory requirements, which I'll touch on later, and what are the obstacles just to delivering the project and ensuring that we have a project at the end of the day. Next slide, please. We have been in these sessions discussing our outreach, which there has been big pushes from between January and November of this year. Outreach is something that I think TriMet does quite well, and it is continuous. It doesn't stop here. It happens all through design, all through construction. We have highlighted that through that outreach, the project consistently has huge support overall, and we are here to deliver on that. We have also heard high levels of support for BAT lanes, but also concerns around congestion, diversion, and impact to existing businesses. There has not been a lot of support for intersection widening that has an even bigger impact on property owners, although some of that is necessary at key locations for more extended bat lanes. Businesses have also, as you've noted today, expressed general concerns around their future economic vitality. Next slide, please. This month at the policy and budget meeting, we're kind of stepping back a little bit to talk about some of the bat lane evaluation criteria or categories, some of which the team has been using along the way with our partners to look at bat lanes, but also attributes or benefits that the community and partners have brought to the table as well. The most obvious one is benefits to transit, looking at travel times and reliability. We have business pedestrian access. How do bat lanes contribute to the comfort of pedestrians along this corridor? Looking at traffic flow and congestion. So how does an additional bat lane, how does that intersect with auto delay or moving people through the corridor, or any of those related flow conversations? Traffic volumes have been a major category, looking at what does the effect of a bat lane in each direction have on peak hour operations and diversion to other streets or even to ODOT facilities. We are exploring business access, movement through the corridor, project delivery and costs. Those are some of the behind the scenes things, but how do we fit this into a budget, stay on schedule, meet the federal requirements for funding, and be ready in this coming year? And then obviously exploring community and business input along the way. These are things that in actually Friday's session we'll start to introduce, understand what other things we should be looking at, but there has been an interest, especially from Metro Council, to really make sure that this is a transparent process with enough time to discuss each of these categories and get feedback from policy and budget. As part of our more typical work efforts that are underway, currently we're evaluating our existing scope, mostly around those fundamental items, to understand where can we deliver similar outcomes in a more economical or efficient way, so that we're building, to the extent that we can, additional budget capacity on the project side. So that means looking at stations, transit signal priority, safety improvements, and also terminus design. Also, as we're going through this back and forth with policy and budget, we are building scenarios for bat lanes that preemptively look at how do we manage risk, largely around some of these regulatory requirements on the ODOT side. We'll be bringing those to policy and budget, and also ensuring that those scenarios reflect their feedback along the way. Next slide, please. As we think about how do we lean in together, because to be aspirational, we know that it is something that we're all needing to lean into to make happen. And I would say these 4 items, and Sam largely mentioned them, are at the center of how we lean in. So there are the political and policy challenges. How do we address business and community concerns around bat lanes, and address larger concerns around congestion and other displacement concerns? Regulatory challenges are significant, so we need acknowledgement around how we move forward related to ODOT regulatory requirements. Some of that, we think, is by mitigating project risks related to some of these bigger infrastructure investments that could be triggered by a full bat lane, specifically as an example at Powell and 82nd. Current modeling, traffic modeling suggests to do a bat lane all through that corridor or through that intersection. We'd need to widen the intersection upstream, also the street, and downstream of the intersection. So that's a much more expensive and extensive and impactful effort. And then rebuild that intersection. We also may have investments at the interchange with I-205 to address ODOT concerns on how we impact 205 through diversion. We don't believe that's where the project money or any additional money comes in should go. So we have ideas for how maybe we pull the back lane back in those areas. And I think a willingness to work through those risks is what we're looking for across the board from all of our partners, and specifically policy and budget. There are cost challenges that we're looking for us all to lean into. Securement of additional funds regionally to do more to meet these aspirational goals, while the project is also looking internally for additional budget capacity. So this is all us doing our role to deliver on the best project possible. And then, of course, there's the federal funding challenge that sometimes gets pushed off to the side, but if we don't get this federal funding, we don't even have a project. So we need to stay focused on that path forward. And as a delivery group, we absolutely need partner support for maintaining that schedule, maintaining the strive to be readiness for this FY27 funding ask. This is also what is emphasized and asked for of us by the FTA. So acknowledgement and support for that is critical. And that comes with also pursuing the aspirational. All of this folds together in the policy and budget path forward with design, scope, schedule, all of those delivery elements coming in, input from the community coming into play, opportunities and challenges that we're all going to be dealing with coming into play for a policy and budget recommendation around what is the target that we should be pursuing as it relates to bat lanes and what we take through 60% design, which we're currently in, and come out ready to finalize our design later this year. As far as the schedule for getting there at a high level in December, which would be on Friday, we're going to do just kind of pull back to understand and talk about the vision for the corridor as presented by the City of Portland and the evaluation categories that we'll be introducing, again, with the focus of transparency. Next month, we'll do a deeper dive into those categories. We'll talk more about ODOT regulations and how we address those. Do we hit them head on, or do we look for opportunities to avoid some of those more impactful costs? And we'll do a BAT scenario review that the team has developed that helps give some guidance for policy and budget to say, hey, this should be our target. This seems reasonable. This seems like what we can achieve together. And then in February, we hope to have a scenario recommendation and also approaches to addressing challenges around any additional costs or other elements, political or otherwise, that would need to come into play. February is a key date because it keeps us on track for design and finishing 60% design as we move into, I think, April and May. That's our wrap-up time for 60%. So with that, that concludes this presentation. I think open it up to all you for any questions or clarifications or discussion amongst yourself.
Thank you. We'll begin with Director Graham.
Thank you so much. I have a few clarification questions that might just help me to understand a little bit better where we are in the process, given some of the comments that people have included in their letters. One is, I know, at the level of design, there's a long way to go. And I believe it was in the Portland Metro Chamber letter, they brought up concern around the location of bus stops and whether those would be blocking access or in unsafe locations, or I think that the other thing that they said was obstructing views or something like that. So it was my understanding, and this may not be correct, that those hadn't been located yet, or that there hadn't been a final decision on those locations yet, and that was still a process to work through with the business owners to determine where those stops go. Is that correct?
I'll let Jesse Stemler, the project director, address that, because there has been quite a bit of work on those.
Yeah, okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Director Graham and Board of Directors. We are in 60%, as Michael had mentioned. 60% is a really important milestone for us because it really is where we get into those details of design. And that includes where stations are placed and their relationship to the context around them. So where previously we've been working more with blocks and understanding where those station locations go and looking at a lot of different factors, looking at a lot of different lenses, what it means for transit performance, what does it mean in terms of traffic, what does it mean in terms for those business, safety, accessibility, all of those lenses. So 60% is where we get real around those station locations. And so the work we're doing now, and will be very much embedded into the design work, is having our community affairs team doing engagement at all of those locations where we have a station platform, and using division as an experience during 60% and throughout the design and even construction. There's an intense dialogue that we have with each of those property owners to make sure that we find win-win solutions. That is our goal, and I think we have a good record of doing that. And so we have heard some concerns around station locations and what it might mean for access. Washman has been one of those businesses that have been reaching out to us. We've had a number of conversations, and I think that's going to be a place where we are already making adjustments, and my hope is we find win-win situations in all of those. And that really will happen during this 60% design phase.
Great, thank you. I think that'll be helpful when we get asked questions about that and what the work that's still to come. Another question that is just maybe helping me to understand the context is there have been a lot of comments about the existing construction impacts on 82nd and the work that's already underway and how that is impacting businesses currently. Is that PBOT or ODOT, or what is that, and what is the timeline for that ending?
Yeah, that work is currently PBOT as part of the jurisdictional transfer of 82nd from ODOT to PBOT. There's a series of safety improvements that they are undertaking. I think they're calling it a major maintenance program right now that is underway and is essential to this transformation. Raymore Construction, who will be the contractor for the transit component as well, is out there working. They do a great job in these environments. They constructed Division Transit Project, and even with all of that, it's still hard because construction is impactful. As we move forward, we already have Raymore on board to help us think about conduct of construction. How do we minimize construction fatigue? How do we work with adjacent business owners and the community to kind of manage that along the way? Their work currently, major maintenance, I think wraps up at the end of 2026. Okay. So there'll be a gap in between, and then, yes, unfortunately, we kind of come back around with another project. One benefit, I think they have a second phase that's part of major maintenance that we are incorporating into the transit project as a betterment. And that will allow us to have a more coordinated approach as they're carrying out the second phase of their work while we're implementing the transit construction. So we are trying, but yes, it is hard to manage the inevitable impacts, but we're doing the best we can as we move forward.
And we've been working really closely with the city to make sure that we are minimizing the disruption to the community along 82nd Avenue and trying to consolidate as much of that construction activity we can to one time. This is unfortunately how we had to phase it out, but we have been thinking about that from the beginning and working with our partners to minimize the impacts to the community along 82nd.
Thank you. It's great to know that you're coordinating. I think that those are also points that would help people to kind of better understand what's coming, and I think that's great that the phase 2 is being planned with this work. The other question I had, and Sam, this might be for you, is so there's mention of an 82nd Avenue development strategy, and that around business stabilization strategies that have been proposed. It was in one of the letters that we received as well. And I'm wondering what is TriMet's role in that sort of broader business stabilization strategy that has been put forth?
So first, I've not seen it.
Okay.
Let me be the first. I don't know if you guys looked at it and part of it, and maybe you can answer on that.
So that is an effort that runs parallel to the transit project. It is an effort that is led largely by the 82nd Avenue Coalition with a lot of kind of partner support. They make recommendations for the work that will be needed to support this corridor long-term. And those recommendations go to different jurisdictions to adopt or plan for. That is outside of the transit project, but obviously interwoven into how we think about the vision for 82nd as a whole. That will be presented at our policy and budget meeting. I think Zachary Lawrenson's going to be presenting on that. And ongoing work with the city of Portland will continue as they kind of look, how can they fund or support some of these programs to address bigger needs related to the residential and business community.
Okay, thank you. I'm happy to hear that there's more conversation about weaving that in, especially considering that some of the business coalitions are not in agreement. And I think it would be helpful to have the conversations around the strategies, or, with supporting business growth and development along the corridor more broadly. So that's great. The presentation to the committee will be happening soon, and I look forward to hearing more about how those conversations are coming together.
Yeah, agreed.
And I appreciate it. I'll definitely be up to speed before Friday with the plan for sure.
Thank you. And we'll now go to Director Frisbee, and then I'll ask a question.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. Am I understanding correctly that if the full bat were to be considered from design perspective, more robust diversion mitigation would need to be considered, which would trigger the widening of intersections, which would possibly cause schedule issues that could potentially affect the FY27 funding issue?
We are not saying that it would trigger schedule issues. It's just something that we need to be collectively aware of and managing. We hope to avoid a lot of those mitigation measures by pulling back the bat lane in certain areas because they have such a significant maybe schedule impact or cost impact associated with them. So
yeah, makes sense.
If I could just add, I think really where we're seeing that most pronounced is at 82nd and Powell. There is, for operational purposes, we are looking at widening at Stark and Washington for a more bat scenario, so for a full bat. But that it's not triggering the type of regulatory needs that we think are likely at Powell and 82nd from working with our ODOT partners.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Director Frisbee.
I've got a couple of like small questions and then larger comments that I hope you'll indulge me in. Are the regulatory concerns, is it level of service impacts? What's the?
Yeah, it's level of service at the intersection, so intersection failure, and then also because of diversion, some of the widening that would need to take place for ODOT facilities. And again, that's primarily what we're seeing is at 82nd and Powell.
Thank you. It's a weird intersection, having been there a lot. So I want us to take a little bit of a step back. At the Budget and Policy Committee meeting last month, what sort of became very clear to me in the public comment is we actually have two very different visions of 82nd that are finally clashing with each other in this moment. We literally had someone get up and say, 82nd is a highway, stop treating it like it's a neighborhood. And then we had people get up and say, 82nd is my neighborhood. We've been asking for it to be a neighborhood street and serve the neighborhood for 30 years. And that, to me, was sort of the question, right? This is the moment. Is 82nd a highway, or is it a community? Is it a street that serves the community that it's in? And it is correct that it was built as a highway over 100 years ago when there were it was farms out there, and it was the connector to get agriculture into downtown Portland. Since then, we have built up, it's one of the more dense parts of Portland. We've built up an entire, multiple thriving, unique, identified neighborhoods. We annexed that part of the city in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. It is an incredibly different landscape and neighborhood than it was when it was built. And I would argue that the decision has actually already been made, that it is no longer a highway. That was made with the transfer of 82nd to the city of Portland. That has been made in the first round of safety improvements that the city is doing right now. And it is frankly it was made when we started this project, right? You don't run frequent service down a highway. That's not, if that is what we intend that road to be, then we shouldn't be building sidewalks on it. We shouldn't be building bus improvements on it. But we, in response to what we heard from the community, and frankly, they'd been organizing for at least as long as I've been alive, they've been organizing for that to be a different kind of street. And so I want it to be very clear. I understand people's attachment to the way a road was built 100 years ago, over 100 years ago. But I think there has been really clear discussion that community looks really different now, particularly in the last 30 to 40 years. It has changed dramatically. And there have been a series of decisions that say we need to change the road to reflect the community and the landscape that it's in now. And to me, the most ambitious transit project on our busiest bus line in the entire region that will only grow, right? That is a part of our city that is only growing. And more people are moving there, and we are seeing more transit need along that space. That is a very clear answer about where that community is going and what that community needs for us in the future. That does not disregard the fact that change is hard, and that does not disregard the fact that there are folks who have built up entire approaches to their business based on the way that street was. But we are building a project that's not meeting the next 5 years of need. We're building a project that needs to meet the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years of need. So that just was very clear to me in the conversations that we've had, in the public comment that I've heard at a whole bunch of different meetings, and that has shown up in my inbox. So that big picture, I think that's where we are, and I hope, Michael, I've heard you talk about being a community builder and a city builder. That is what this project needs to do. And to some extent, actually, the community's built, right? They went ahead and built without the transportation service, without the transit service, and we're just trying to catch up. Bless you, baby, good job. So that I really hope that we can move there. I also think it is worth pointing out to Director Graham's comments around timeline. We are in the 60% stage. This is where things get interesting, right? And it is where you can say, you know, yes, I hear you have a concern around the left turn lanes here. Here are different ways we can mitigate that. Let's look at some of these options. Is it gonna be perfect? No. Is your clientele gonna change, right? You know, each of those stores has an individual proportion in terms of who gets there by bus, who gets there walking, and who gets there by driving. That is gonna change after this project. But our goal is that we are bringing enough new ridership there by the bus. And, you know, PBOT is working also to make it possible by foot, that they are actually seeing more folks visiting. And that is my sort of second big picture comment. I have heard a lot from folks asking for, we want more data on business impact. And my response has been, you know, what we have when we look at bat lane implementation across the country, much less internationally, shows almost uniformly an increase in foot traffic and in support for the businesses that rely and depend on that foot traffic. And frankly, even businesses that think of themselves as car dependent actually often see a much more significant increase in their foot traffic and folks coming off the bus that ends up being more than making up for any potential car loss. What I have had said to me is, well, we don't believe that, basically, or it's different here. And it is hard for me to then get to the next stage of a conversation, because it's like, well, what are we gonna turn around for you that you're gonna believe if your answer is always just, that data doesn't meet my needs, that data is not what I want. When we look at the best data we have across the country, real life BAT implementation and its impact on businesses, to me, it is very heartening. And what it says, it's a story of resiliency. It's a story of these projects, they change the way that folks get there, but overall, they're bringing more folks to the door of your business. So I guess I'm using this as a little bit of a soapbox to kind of push back, because I don't know how to keep having a conversation of just like, I don't believe that. And I think the question that we have that we want to work with folks on is, how can we help make this work so that it's not about preserving the way that people get to you right now. It is about, what does this look like in the future? What do your next 10, 20, 30 years as a business look like around 82nd? Because let me tell you, that community is changing, and you're going to have folks getting there differently no matter what. So I appreciate your work. I will say I'm a little bit concerned that this is already bleeding into February. I was hoping we were going to make a decision earlier, and I get worried when we start butting up against timelines, and frankly, sometimes just having the same conversation 6 different times doesn't actually change the conversation. And so I would encourage us to think about how we can have the important conversations and the effective conversations with people that understand their needs and try to help find a good path forward. If they don't want to participate in that, having that conversation 6 times is not useful. And so I want to find a way to work with all of our folks, with all the community folks who live along there, make sure everyone's voice is heard, to find a way to meet needs and address needs when we can, and acknowledge that this community has changed and is changing, and we need to meet that. So thank you guys. I appreciate your work. I appreciate this presentation. I think the other thing I would say is, I don't want to speak for my board members, although I know actually that they're all willing participants, but we are here to be helpful in this. And we certainly, I would say, I'm probably getting 10 to 20 emails a week easily on this project. And frankly, most of them are in support of full bat lanes, or more angry that we're not doing more pedestrian stuff. But use us to participate in the conversation, because we're getting brought in anyways.
Thank you for that. I'll just say, as a delivery group, we are aligned with everything you've said. We know that this is the future of the corridor as defined by the regional planning that has gone into this, by the city plan that has gone into this. I think that's very clear. The business and the public side is challenging. That's where I think we really need assistance beyond project delivery to say, how are we going to lean in to address this? Or what kind of direction do we think is appropriate given what we're hearing? That's probably the hardest piece because there's not a design solution really to address some of the feedback that we've been getting. And I think it's really a larger lean in on a regional scale to help us address that. We can look at alternatives that mitigate some of the costs, some of the risks. That is what we're here for. There might be need for additional resources to be more aspirational. I think we've heard support for that from this board, but also from policy and budget and Metro commissioners especially. So we are aligned with that, and I hope you all understand that. We are not looking to just get something done. We are looking for the best project possible, but we also are looking at how do we make sure that we're delivering a project. That is what TriMet is good at, is we don't miss the big opportunities to the extent that we have control over that. So that's where we also need your all support.
Thank you.
I would just, sorry, really fast, but I would just say, I mean, I think the transit project is like the visible symbol of abrupt change, right? In a way that the slow growth and development of a community is not. And so, yeah, you guys are the tip of the spear, as my dad would say. I don't know if we say that anymore. But, you know, this is the moment when folks go, oh, wow, this represents a different future. And I think, you know, the one change I would make, Michael, is it's not because it's a government plan or a regional thing. It's actually because of the reality of the community that's there now and what they're asking for, and the folks who live there and the folks who work there and the folks who use it. All of those government plans are responding to that new reality.
Agreed.
And so, yeah.
We'll go to Director Flowers.
Yeah, I could not second Director Frisbee's comments anymore. Just agree with you across the board. I think that our agency's reputation will be made or broken by the way that we show up in this project. And to your point, Mr. Kaiser, you know, I understand that on the project delivery side of things, folks are often put in an impossible position. There is almost objectively no way to make everybody happy in delivering a project as substantial and transformative as this one. The best thing we can do is gather all of the input possible from people on the ground, the people most impacted by the project and the decisions that we're making that go into the project, to do all of the research that we possibly can to investigate the question of what is right, what is best from a transit perspective. We've done that research, we've put that time in, we've talked to community members, we've heard from folks. I think where we're starting to tie ourselves in knots here as an agency is exactly to Tyler's point. We are failing to assert a position. And that limbo that we've thrust ourselves into means that not only are we stalling out a bit, but nobody is happy, right? Even people who would be incredibly verbally supportive of this project, who would show up and testify at public hearings, who have been coming to community meetings for, the better part of a decade, advocating for these types of changes, are at a loss as to what they need to do in order to bring this project to life. Do they show up and testify here in the context of trying to convince this board and this agency to show up in a different way? Do they show up to the policy and budget committee meeting? Do they show up to, the community-based meeting? Do they take to Twitter or to TikTok or to Instagram? We aren't giving folks a direct way to get behind the project. The quicker we can get to a decision that's reflective of what this agency is supposed to represent, I think the quicker we'll see the vast coalition of people who have lined up and said, this is the project we want. We want it to include full bat lanes. We want to transform this corridor from a highway into a pedestrian corridor built around the lives of people. And most importantly, we here at TriMet, our motto is literally how life moves. This is a question of how life moves, right? We need to be comfortable enough to assert a position. And to Director Frisbee's point, I think that we could lean on board members who are just, I mean, it is our jobs literally to be entrenched in the communities that we represent, and we all are in different ways, to also be communicators of why this project matters and what this transformation can deliver for the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of life here in our region.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We'll now move to a second and last board briefing on the TriMet North Terminus off-street bus layover facility requirements. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, team. Mr. General Manager, comments, please.
Great conversation. Really appreciate all the comments, taking them to heart 100%. We're going to look at the analysis work that's coming forward, and we'll get to that decision as what was stated. Thank you, Vice President Kim. TriMet has a unique opportunity to acquire property that will allow us to meet an agreement we made with the City of Portland in 2016. And that is to move our buses that lay over in Northwest Portland off the street near Union Station. This opportunity not only meets our contractual agreement, it addresses an ongoing operational need and increases safety for our operators and other frontline employees. So today, Chief Operations Officer Anessa Vitko and Director of Real Estate Lance Ertz are here to present some background information and answer any questions in advance of a possible board action that's coming up in January. So over to you.
All right, thank you, General Manager Sue, Vice President Kim, Board of Directors. Good morning. I think still for 3 more minutes. So we know we are holding you up from getting out of here and getting lunch. So we're going to be brief. As General Manager DeSue said, we do have a unique opportunity. It's rare that you come across a situation that meets multiple needs. Contractual, operational, safety, and in a situation where our funding allows for it, and it's very reasonable given the current market. So I'm going to let Lance give you more background, and I'm here to help answer any questions.
Thanks, Anessa. Yeah, I'm Lance Ertz. I'm the Director of Real Estate and Transit-Oriented Development at TriMet. Thank you, Vice President Kim and board members for letting us make this presentation. As Anessa said, this is a unique opportunity. We're going to talk through some background, how we got to needing to make a transaction, site facility criteria, very importantly, the funding strategy for this, given TriMet's current situation, and then next steps. So next slide, please. For the background, back in the planning of the Division Transit project, all the way back before 2016, really, the city, as a requirement of supporting the project, the Division Transit project, adopted the locally preferred alternative with the City Council resolution that had a bit of a caveat on it, which was that TriMet would work collaboratively with the city to identify, plan, and design a permanent off-street layover facility for bus layover and operator breaks downtown near the north terminus of the transit mall, and that would happen within 5 years of service beginning on the Division Transit project, which happened in September of 2022. So what this means is, in order for TriMet to meet this commitment and obligation, which we accepted, we need to be doing this by September of 2027. So we're getting toward the end of that timeline. Next slide, please. Clearly, when we're looking for a site that meets the requirements to lay over in the North Terminus area, we're pretty limited on what's there. We're in downtown Portland. There's not a ton of sites that have can meet the bus access and egress requirements that this needs to have. So we're looking at clearly at location, proximity to North Terminus. We're looking at operational ability to get in and out of a site. We're looking at a place where we can put facilities that help our operators to lay over. We need bathrooms, we need break rooms, we need safety. We need a safer environment, frankly, than laying over on the street in the North Terminus provides for our operators. We need to minimize cost, both on the property acquisition phase, the project phase, and the operational expenses. And we need to provide long-term operational flexibility and support both neighborhood activation and, frankly, downtown reinvestment for Portland. So next slide. So for years, really since 2016, we've been trying to figure out where this could happen. There really were limited to 3 sites that made any sense in the North Terminus area, and you can see on this slide where those sites are. The first, which seemed to be a pretty strong contender pre-pandemic for several reasons, was the former firehouse site at 510 Northwest 3rd, was owned by Prosper Portland. It's near the Transit Mall, but it's a very challenging to get in and out of it. I don't know if you're familiar with this site, but it's adjacent to the steel bridge. You know, there's all sorts of just difficulties getting in and out of the site, made it less than ideal. It's a cleared site, but we would have to build up an entire facility from scratch, which does make it more expensive. The second site we looked at was ODOT right-of-way on First and Everett, again under the steel bridge. That's now planned for a City of Portland skate park, which is great use, supportive of that project. And the last site we looked at is the site we're here to talk about today, and that's the former Greyhound bus station. That's at 550 Northwest 6th. Even way back when, this was identified as the best site for lots of reasons that we'll talk about in a minute, but it was very, very expensive. Honestly, it was under contract pre-pandemic for $35 million. So we had looked at it, but it was just a very expensive site, and really that just killed any hope for TriMet moving forward with it. Next slide. So the Greyhound site, obviously, lots of good reasons that a site that was used for, bus service would fit well with TriMet's need to use it for bus service. It's a unique 2-acre property on the Transit Mall with an existing purpose-built bus yard. It's got the lowest upfront capital investment requirements and the greatest long-term flexibility. It's a super block. Again, it's 2-acre site. It's very well aligned with existing bus routes and schedules, and the real estate market conditions are favorable to buyers. Next slide. So this slide just kind of shows the context and the location of the neighborhood. I'm sure you're all very familiar with it. But again, the Greyhound site sits close to Union Station. It's between the TriMet light rail lines on 5th and 6th. It's near the steel bridge. It's near the Prosper Portland post office site that they're going to redevelop. So it's a very prime location, both for transit and just for TriMet access and future needs in this part of the city. Next slide. This shows the existing site on a very kind of conceptual scale. This slide will help show that the area we're interested in for the operator labor facility is the existing bus yard, which is labeled number 1 on this diagram. It's outdoors. It's, was designed, like I said, for bus ingress and egress. You can see that at number 3. You would enter off of 5th, pull into the site, and then enter onto Gleason Street, or exit off onto Gleason Street. But again, it was built for buses. It was built for people to get on and off Greyhound buses, so it serves our purposes quite well. And yeah, the other thing I would add, the note on the bottom of that last slide, minimal site investment required to make the existing bus yard functions work for TriMet operations. Next slide. So funding strategy, again, very important. We talk about funding strategy for this site. The proposed transaction specifically leverages existing federal funds and federal grant monies that are not available for TriMet operations or TriMet service or other agency expenditures. The proposed funding for this transaction would be a mixture of an existing federal grant 5339 formula funds for bus and bus facilities. And then the other portion of the funding would be utilizing federal restricted account funds that are exclusively for grant-related property acquisitions. And those funds are funds, when we purchase a property for a federally funded project, if we're going to dispose of a portion of that property in the future as excess, which we've done, periodically, we buy property, we use it for the project, and there's some excess left over and we sell it, we are allowed to keep the proceeds for that, from that, but under certain conditions. One of the options we would have would be to repay the FTA, the money we get back. We don't want to do that. A much better option is to keep it in a restricted account where we are, unable to spend it. Like I said, you can't spend it on just service or operational expenses, but what you can spend it on is FTA-approved capital projects, which this would be. So you have to attach it to an existing grant, essentially. So we have this money, we see a great opportunity, we have an existing grant, and we have the potential to put those things together and create a facility that I think meets the obligation we talked about earlier. So next steps. We're currently working on finalizing all federal approvals. We need to get NEPA clearance. We need to work through the federal process. We're working on that. We're undergoing property due diligence and ensuring that there's no real surprises here. We think we know what's there. It's been a ground site forever, hasn't been utilized for quite a few years, but we're working through the due diligence. We're working with our partners at the City of Portland who are supportive of this acquisition and this plan. However, there's still a lot to work out with them to ensure that we do get all the support we need to do what we need to do at this site. We have yet to negotiate full purchase and sale terms with the seller. We've had lengthy discussions with the seller, and we are continuing to work on that. We obviously need to get Board of Directors approval before purchasing the site, so we will likely be back in January with a resolution that'll give you a lot more detail. Like today, I can't tell you, the purchase price. It's still in negotiations and confidential, but during the resolution, or as part of that resolution, we'll be able to tell you more details than we can now. So we'll be back in January, most likely, if our anticipated timeline holds for that. After that, we need to execute a binding purchase and sale agreement with the seller, and then we would hope to close and purchase the property in summer of 2026 if all goes according to plan. It's a little bit of an aggressive timeline, but we have a motivated seller and hopefully a motivated buyer. So that's where we are, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lance. Director Frisbee.
I remember when this was discussed back when it was $30 million and being like, wow, that is probably not possible, but thrilling to think about. And it's exciting to see it come back around again. Besides the operations role of this property, is there a TOD role? I guess I don't have a feeling for there's so much happening in that area. Does this give TriMet the chance to potentially be a part of that and possibly benefit and leverage and support all of that? Or is this, do we think our operations needs will take up the whole space?
The operations need will not take up the whole space. There absolutely is a potential TOD opportunity down the road, given the current market. That's probably not imminent, but certainly like I said, it's a 2-acre super block site, so it's a prime location, and it can fit more than just our operator layover, and the operator layover could be coordinated with future TOD opportunities.
Director Kellogg.
Thank you, and thanks for your presentation. Just a couple of quick questions. I saw you mentioned NEPA in there, and I hear bus depot, and I start thinking about fuel tanks and that kind of thing. Has that all been, or is that underway, the look into that?
We have gotten a Phase 1 environmental report that does not require a Phase 2. It's basically like you would expect, no real surprises. There were tanks, but no need to do further environmental research.
Okay. And then on what appeared to be a structure, how long is that since it's been inhabited by anyone?
Oh, gosh. I'm not sure when Greyhound moved out. I would say 10 years ago, perhaps, maybe longer.
Okay. And I mean, is that looking like a complete rehab?
It has been, it was most recently utilized as a homeless shelter by Multnomah County. The uses of the existing site are probably somewhat limited, both by the fact that it's a little bit, it's not in the best condition, and also there are zoning requirements on what can and can't happen there, which we would also need to discuss with the city. So kind of TBD on that. We are going to do a building condition assessment to get a better idea of what the existing building, exactly what the shape of the existing building is. That hasn't started yet, but that's going to happen soon.
Okay. And would any improvement cost in that context be covered by the grant programs you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't think
It's
there'll
not
be-
just acquisition, but improvement?
Yeah, it is. Hopefully, we won't have to do any major, the existing buildings most likely won't be used for the operator labor facility. So hopefully, we won't have to sink a bunch of money into the existing building. Again, we're getting a better handle on what that would require. I know that our facilities people, we've discussed this with them as well. There are always holding costs. So we're trying to get a better idea of what those holding costs would be. But I don't foresee any major uses of the building, at least in the near future.
So the scope of what it would look for the operator layover facility, the actual building is to be determined. Our intent is to make sure that we are going to meet the necessities of our operators, our frontline employees who also would use it, supervisors, our security team, folks like that. And what we want to do is make sure we do that in a way that is cost-effective. And if that means rehabbing part of the building, great. If it means putting a different site, a small site on there, great. That scope will be worked through as we move through. Our intent is to use the least amount of general funds possible and stick to the facilities grant besides any matching that we have to do. So, and that's been the promise I've made to the team, make sure we meet our needs, but be very fiscally conservative with that.
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you. This is very exciting, but I will hold my enthusiasm until we close. With that said, you have our full support to continue to diligently approach the negotiation process, right? Because motivated seller, certainly, but we want to maximize the market situation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And that concludes the briefing. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you.